My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence, that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. It is currently 7:13 a.m. on Saturday, July 19, 2025. The ongoing pattern of conduct remains underway at third-party facilitating venue Economy Inn, and I'm also going to document the evidence of that with the documentation of the fake sun that is present. This is documentation of the quote-unquote sunrise, where the entity is gang stalking and engaged in what is bathroom monitoring. This is the entity that's gang stalking with planes, amplifying plane activity inside of the bathroom, while I am, again, under surveillance in that private space. This is the sex offense committed by the people of the state that are patrolling on the 60 freeway. This is the entity that's engaged in the pattern of conduct monitoring in a bathroom, which is a sex offense committed by the people of the state that are remaining as patrons, demon-possessed ones, and sex offenders. Monitoring, that is stalking, keeping a woman under surveillance, including keeping a woman under surveillance in a bathroom. And that evidence is proven through the maintenance of what is not the sun, but the fake sun. License 8C, get this sex offender monitoring me in the bathroom at Mobile 2315 South Euclid Avenue, 8CEZ 958. This is bathroom monitoring in relevant position. License 3UUU 144. License 7N54622. Engaged in monitoring at the Mobile, and I'm going to show you what is patrolling. This is a demon, a white male. You'll see him. He's patrolling in the parking lot. He's stalking under the fake sun, monitoring, and this is mental illness. So you can see this is the demon that's pacing. This is what the entity does with helicopter, flying in circles around me, following, stalking everywhere. This is a demon doing it on foot under the fake sun. That is, again, 12 hours from now. It's after 7 p.m. It's still in alignment to me, reflecting off of the window of the same hotel building, in alignment, which appears to be over the parking lot of the venue Driftwood Village, which is across the street, which is evidence of non-movement of what is the fake sun. It's currently 7:15 a.m. Remember, the entity is rising the fake sun at Tracy Banks' apartment, Woodside Senior Apartments, rising the fake sun in alignment to me through my living room window at Alvarado Gardens in Los Angeles, where LAPD is gang stalking me as a matter of documentation where I live and work, while the state of California is targeting me. And also, the entity is rising the fake sun as I'm documenting at the Ovid Family Community Library. And the entity is engaging in that pattern of conduct, rising the fake sun at 7:15 a.m. at 507 North Euclid Avenue, where this entity is committing a kidnapping through the Ontario Police Department. L. Edwards, A. Casada, and Alex Escobar, who are going to federal prison, and so are the employees of Starbucks, who are gang stalking and committing kidnapping, just like the demons at Economy Inn, where the fake sun is rising and setting, committing kidnapping with the intent to obstruct justice. It is... Alrighty, you're looking at what is the fake sun at 7:16 a.m. The entity is engaged in real-time effort to subdue the fake sun. I took pictures of it. You'll see the engineer light, and the engineer light is still present. This is under no circumstances ever going to be the natural environment, and this is where the entity provides confirmation. Pay attention, because the plane activity starts right here. That's possible path with audible activity under the fake sun. Okay, this is the entity that's engaged in what is providing confirmation that they are gang stalking. There is no airport where you are flying south over the this hotel building. This hotel building that has the fake sun 12 hours later. This is evidence that the city of Ontario just provided against the co-defendants who are going to federal prison at Starbucks, where the sun is not going to be seen through the windows where L. Edwards is gang stalking at 7:15 a.m. on July 4, 2025. This is evidence that the entity is providing against the people of the state who are stalking under a fake sun that is still here, reflecting off of this window and seen in perfect alignment with me at Driftwood Village at 7:09 p.m. The entity is keeping the fake sun. I want to be clear, it's right here where the entity is gang stalking by commercial planes. That's demonic activity, which you're never going to hear, where you are taking off from the airport, number one, and you're also witnessing demonic activity. You saw the plane, but the sound of the plane is demonic. It's as demonic as the fake sun that's here now, and it's still here 12 hours later. Okay, this is demonic activity, which is evidence of criminal surveillance, and it's exposing a special needs status of an entire population that's engaging in what is criminal surveillance, and it's referred to as gang stalking. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct, amplifying plane activity in the depths of that hotel room. Plane activity that's sounding in the bathroom where my vagina is exposed, where I'm engaged with private activity, personal activity that the people of the state and the government have no legitimate interest in. They're sex offenders. And the evidence of there being sex offenders is literally the supernatural, where the entity just engaged in what is exhibiting severe mental illness. That's removing Alan D. Wapner. This is a corrupt government actor, a corrupt president of the airport authority that has commercial planes flying over me and facilitating venue in conformity to the documentation against Alan D. Wapner, who is going to be removed from position and office, while commercial planes are flying south over the hotel, and the airports are supposedly taking off, headed to destinations which are published on the Ontario International Airport, which are flying in the direction south and making U-turns, which I'm documenting at all hours of the day. The entity is engaging in what is, again, very demented and delusional. While I capture the evidence of the mentally ill who are stalking, they provide real-time evidence of their criminal targeting conduct, which is speaking to their mental illness as well. And it's going to be the removal of public officials like Paul Leon, Alan D. Wapner, Mike Lorenz, Michael Gherkin, who are engaged in criminal monitoring, as each department in the city of Ontario is also proven to be engaged in the satanic targeting system of federal group stalking and monitoring. It's currently 7:19 a.m. and this is not in alignment. This is not going to be in view of my camera, where I'm capturing kidnapping as an entity with the intent to obstruct justice at 507 North Euclid Avenue. That is Starbucks on Euclid Avenue, where the entity is keeping the fake sun after 7 p.m. There's no natural environment where the sun is going to be in alignment or ever at Starbucks at 507 North Euclid Avenue, but you're understanding the consistent documentation of the inconsistent environment where gang stalking is underway. That's a demon that's pacing, just like you see in this parking lot, just like the entity did with Commercial Plane over this hotel, where Mobile is gang stalking, Mobile's customers are gang stalking. They're monitoring my vagina inside of this hotel room, and the entity is engaged in what is a documented act of kidnapping as an entity, where, by the way, the Ontario International Airport engaged in what is flying directly over my head right here, engaged in what is gang stalking, and that's also on the record. The amplified audible activity that you heard while that plane was flying over is demonic. All right, and the entity engaged in a far deviation from taking off from 2500 South Archibald, 2500 Airport Drive to fly south over this building. Do you know what's on the other side? It's an empty field and grocery outlet. This is where the entity is indeed gang stalking, and everybody's going to be documented gang stalking with the Ontario Police Department. EUCLID. That's the yellow bottom helicopter over the fake sun. The Ontario Police Department is being disbanded. It's the pattern of conduct of stalking with helicopter. LAPD, the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, the Los Angeles Fire Department, the Ontario Police Department, they're engaging in the same pattern of conduct. The San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, this is disbanding of the Ontario Police, while they have a helicopter with a yellow bottom engaging in the same P.O.C. under a fake sun at 2301 South Euclid Avenue. The City of Ontario Housing Division is engaged in what are paying for vouchers of the people of the state that are gang stalking and engaging in a sex offense and domestic terrorism with the City of Ontario. Where the fake sun is remaining over me at the Ovid Family Community Library, the Ontario Police Department is being disbanded, and every gang stalking police officer that committed kidnapping, including C. Hazelwood and Owens, just the other night, where they're engaged in stalking, not enforcement of the law. They don't have authority under the law, and while they engage in that ongoing harassment and criminal conduct while they're harassing somebody that they're gang stalking while wearing police uniforms, they're going to federal prison. All right, and that's video documentation that you already see on the internet. Every gang stalking police officer that's under the fake sun at 7:15 at Starbucks is going to federal prison. And that's why you have the absence of a coincidence. The entity flying over my head under a fake sun that 12 hours from now is right here. And the entity is engaged in a pattern of conduct. And this is why you have the entity engaging in the pattern of conduct of flying south with a commercial plane while the fake sun is over me. And 12 hours from now, that fake sun is still here. The entity is going to be removed. The Ontario International Airport's engaged in domestic terrorism. They represent a threat in this country. They are a domestic enemy engaged in what I'm exposing, and I'm also going to prosecute it. And this is putting TRACEE Banks, this is putting Jason Isaac Fields, this is putting Eric Corey Spencer, Ariana Elena Lopez, KARI HEABERLIN, everyone, SCHNITA McClain, every single person that sat in a corrupt court with the intent to defame my character, bearing false witness, while they are engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. That's the government that's targeting with the people of the state whose name I know, with the intent to defame my character in order, under a secret and criminally procured conservatorship, to steal property from me, while the police are stalking, while the Ontario International Airport is stalking. That's the pattern of conduct. That's UPS. They're going to federal prison. That's audible activity, roller positioning, and that's, again, no destination from the airport. They're flying in the direction south, and when I'm inside of my hotel room, this sound of the plane activity is occurring when they're a tremendous distance away. This is them engaging in demonic activity right in front of your face, and it's not a distraction from exactly what I stated. Everybody bearing false witness against my character, including the sex partners, TRACEE Banks and Jason Isaac Fields, and everyone else, Eric Corey Spencer, that are bearing false witness in order to steal property. Gang stalking with the government is not creating a legitimate conservatorship. It does not create mental illness. This is the entity's conspiracy to defame an American citizen in order to steal their property. And the government's going to be prosecuted, and so are the people of the state. And the people of the state that include TRACEE Banks and all of her demon-possessed band members that engaged in conspiring with the state, that I have surrounded with the evidence of the P.O.C., they're all going to federal prison. And the government just provided ongoing corroborating evidence, as the demon-possessed always do. This is a special needs population. And the entity is keeping the fake sun now over economy, and we're at no point is this ever coexisting with being over Starbucks at 507, Woodside Senior Apartments at 408 West G Street, the Ovid Family Community Library from the time of entrance until the time of exit. And replete with that, the entity engages in what is providing more confirmation, in case you doubted, which you reasonably are not, by gang stalking with commercial planes and helicopter, which is state action. This is all state action as well. Okay? This is where the same City of Ontario committed kidnapping on September 25th, 2020, where the fake sun is documented rising at 7:49 a.m. over this pool. I documented the fake sun right here yesterday during the 10 a.m. hour. I documented the fake sun over me in this parking lot at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I documented the fake sun over me at 12:52 over my room, where the City of Ontario is pacing in this parking lot, monitoring with the people of the state, doing so while they are keep under a fake sun that remains all day long. That's the entity that's stalking by commercial planes. That's the entity that's stalking by helicopter, which is what the entity relies on presence in that demonic environment. This is light activity, so while you're flying over me, you're monitoring. And you're also providing evidence to the federal government that you're monitoring. In Driftwood Village, grocery outlet, mobile gas, the people of the state on the 60 freeway, the people of the state living in relevant position, this is massive monitoring while the entity is engaged in what is obvious stalking with, by an airport. UPS crossing path, hovering. Not just crossing path, but you saw hovering. Flying in the direction south. This isn't even in alignment to the airport. The entity is literally engaging what is donuts over me, and doing so while they are all worshiping my vagina in the bathroom. So stepping out to show you the fake sun is the evidence which putting all the people of the state, including gang stalking judges who are acting as the government in corrupt courts to steal property. This is what the government is practicing in the United States, stealing inheritances from American citizens, conspiring against their, to defame their character in order to do so, while a government that's engaging in criminal surveillance in the way that the City of Ontario has just demonstrated, and the people of the state are under a fake sun. These are demons that are engaged in public corruption throughout this country, where surveillance is underway unbeknownst to American citizens, and the government conspires against American citizens that it is keeping under surveillance to steal things from them, such as property, trusts, etc. When you have substantial property that the government is seeking to steal. Gang stalking judges that are targeting me by stealing property, they're going to prison. All right, and the City of Ontario just provided evidence against them. This is why, and this is how, and this is what is working together. Bearing false witness in corrupt courts about my character, while gang stalking me at the same time and relying on witchcraft and voodoo and black magic in order to do the invisible work against me, and it didn't work. And they're all going to federal prison. It is currently 7:26 a.m. This is evidence against L. Edwards, C. Hazelwood, Nathan Morgan. You have C. Torres that's going to federal prison. You have Alex Escobar. You have the entity that's gang stalking through A. Casada, engaging in kidnapping. I'm documenting on B. Hook on May 29th. The kidnapping on July 4th, 2025. The kidnapping attempt on just the other day with C. Hazelwood in the middle of the night when they're gang stalking, which is what the fake sun proves. All right, and the entity that's gang stalked by flying over my head where the fake sun is present by plane and helicopter is what this documentation proves. And the pattern of conduct shown by the people of the state, where this hotel building is filled with engineer light where they're pacing. And the entity is maintaining earthquake activity inside of the hotel room and amplifying plane activity inside of the depths of the hotel room and stalking me with ongoing amplification of traffic inside of the hotel room, which is impossible audible activity heard inside of the depths in order to maintain surveillance where the government's directly engaging in it. This is P.O.C. All right, the helicopter activity in the City of Ontario is disbanding the Ontario Police Department. There's no sun that's ever going to be over the Ontario Police Department. Not at 11 o'clock in the morning like I documented in 2021. Not at 9:32 a.m. like I documented in 2025. Not at 4 o'clock in the evening like I documented in 2021. The Ontario Police Department is being disbanded, and Mike Lorenz is being removed, and so is every other demon that's associated with the Ontario Police, as this thorough system of public corruption is exposed, and this criminal surveillance pursuant to targeting amongst surveillance, and this is for money. This is for property that none of the demons are getting, and they're going to prison for it. All right, this is P.O.C. It's currently 7:28 a.m. I want to be clear. This ongoing obvious engagement in criminal conduct is relevant to mental illness that is shared by the demon possessed, and this is a national security threat. Gang stalking immigrants are justly deported. Gang stalking mayors are removed from office. Gang stalking police departments go to federal prison. The people of the state that are gang stalking with law enforcement go to federal prison. Gang stalkers that are engaged in bearing false witness against your character, whose name you know in your family, in your personal life, they go to federal prison because they're acting further into murder and kidnapping. And the entity that is gang stalking in this video, like you see, helicopter, plane activity, the people of the state under a fake sun at a hotel, both employees and patrons, this level of desperation, this level of continuation when the secrecy is gone, that level of impunity and malice equals federal prison and mental asylums. This is P.O.C. It's currently 7:29 a.m. at 2301 South Euclid Avenue. All right, you're listening to the evidence of the entity gang stalking by plane and helicopter, license EE94Z99 paper, and the same license plate that I'm documenting on a daily basis, license KKB99. All right, the entity is gang stalking, as you can hear, and what you'll see clearly published online, 9GTD454, is the gang stalker that's monitoring, as an employee, a demon crossing path after the Ontario International Airport, and the Ontario Police do so in the sky space, so this demon is crossing path after I stop recording video. Under the fake sun, which is activity creation just like you see in the afternoon, license 7TQK000, 9SBU962, 3TBG137, 9DTM779, 8VJG204, and it does not get any more direct with regard to gang stalking at a hotel when the entity engages in the gang stalking by helicopter, gang stalking by commercial plane, and they're gang stalking by the people of the state by maintaining presence. The entity is engaging in that with, again, this archaic idea that you are removing the evidence against the people of the state. They are being federally prosecuted for kidnapping at Economy Inn, and if these are gang stalking immigrants that committed kidnapping with the Ontario Police on September 25th, 2020, they're being deported. 5AMV693, 7DSP128. The entity is very much highly unintelligent. This is not logic that mentally sick gang stalkers exhibit. They exhibit desperation and an absence of any idea of what to do when they're exposed. And the entity that is psychopathic engages in more psychological torture. They engage in more criminal conduct. They engage in more infliction of harm. And that is documented on video by stalking in a helicopter, stalking in commercial planes. In a manner, by the way, legally speaking, is obvious with regard to stalking in conformity to the documented pattern of conduct by commercial planes and by helicopter under the fake sun and an engineer light with the people of the state. License 6UEN065, 8DNP118, 5SBA114, 8LKV364, 9SPD246. And these are demons that are, again, not illustrative of the only people who are here. The entity knows that they're being documented. The entity is going to produce everybody that's remaining in the venue because everybody's walking away with a prosecution, and that's if they're walking away. Okay? The kidnappers that are management here, they're not walking away. License 8EDV437-23103U1, just like I documented on September 25th, 2020, the entity dragged me away in handcuffs talking about having a warrant in a fictitious case, which was made up. They made up the case, they made up a DA, they made up the charges, and they dragged me away on September 25th, 2020, pursuant to criminal summoning. And guess who else is not walking away? The gang stalking immigrants who are still here monitoring me at this hotel, which the city of Ontario is gang stalking and simultaneously paying for the hotel room and paying for the hotel rooms of the sex offenders in every hotel room at this venue. They're going to federal prison. And if they're immigrants, meaning they've been granted the privilege, Mr. Trump, thankfully to his policy, which he is probably unwittingly removing gang stalkers, it is justice, and they are appropriately deported out of this country because that's exactly what's happening. A federal prosecution engaged in domestic terrorism, you can look forward to deportation if you are not a natural-born citizen and you engaged in kidnapping. It is currently 7:32 a.m. This is criminal monitoring while the entity flies over with a yellow bottom helicopter. That's the same entity. The Ontario Police Department is being disbanded. The entity is going to be subject to the pattern of conduct. So is mobile gang stalking by helicopter and commercial planes. There is no planes taken off from the airport, the Ontario International Airport, where they are taking off at 2500 and 2900 Airport Drive, and then flying over what is 2301 South Euclid Avenue in the direction south, hovering. And then making a U-turn. And remember, when I'm inside of my room and I'm taking pictures, and I already documented this, they're sounding the they're sounding the plane activity when the plane is at a tremendous distance away already. So you witness them engaging in demonic conduct, and the sound of the plane is disconnected from what you're seeing, and it is as demonic as the light activity that these demons are pacing all around and the fake sun that they're pacing all around. So that's your ability to understand what it is if your mind can't connect with, wait, you see the plane, but that's not the sound of the plane. That's exactly what I mean. This is demonic. And so the entity is engaged in that. Taking another picture of the fake sun that's getting brighter and dimmer, that's light activity. Okay. This is, again, the criminal conduct that the city of Ontario is sharing in. They are engaged in what is monitoring with the people of the state who are remaining in hotel rooms that the city paid for in order to engage in criminal surveillance, which is domestic terrorism, okay, which is also an exceedingly violent sex offense. And the entity is doing so with impunity that I'm documenting. That impunity is relevant to the way in which the entity is going to be prosecuted. And this is exactly what I'm referring to in the video. And you're always paying attention when I start talking about the people of the state that are going to federal prison.
prison, like Tracy Banks, Eric Spencer, KARI, HEABERLIN, ARIANA, LOPEZ, people that are sitting in courts unbeknownst to me about property that was never told, reported to me regarding a secret conservatorship that I have no knowledge about, a secret conservatorship that concerns what is information necessarily manufactured and made up about my character, while psychopaths and sex offenders and demons who are engaged in sex rituals and the practice of witchcraft in order to try to garner some sort of spiritual authority to manifest mental illness on myself, while they're in courts abusing the positions that they have, defaming my character like Jason Isaac Fields, this maniacal psychopath, having sex with my mother. While they're both defaming my character in court, they're going to federal prison. And when I refer to that, this is when the entity provides more evidence of gang stalking by flying over my head. This is not a coincidence. Always pay attention to not only the pattern of conduct, but take a step back and listen to what it is that I'm talking about when the demons, who are the state of California, engage in more criminal conduct directly. They would like to be engaged in documenting, and you see nothing. But the demons are more obsessed than they are logical and having any sort of legal strategy. The city of Ontario has long ago forfeited any sort of legitimacy in court, and this is also how you're recognizing their mental illness, the special needs status, the threat that they are as domestic enemies, because they are more obsessed, they are more addicted to monitoring me than they are concerned with being accountable in federal courts, being accountable with regard to exposure worldwide for the unprecedented criminal conduct that they're engaging in. So this is why you have flying in an obvious manner of gang stalking. This is never the sun when the entity is keeping the fake sun. The entity is keeping the fake sun over me on July 4th, 2025, where the Ontario Police Department would like to suggest, oh, we're not demons, oh, we're not gang stalking, and that's the natural environment, and we know nothing, and we were only here because Starbucks called us, and there's no evidence of any surveillance. Like, all of that's going to be disregarded, and what the Ontario Police Department and what Starbucks claims is going to rule the day, and that no one's going to listen to my evidence and everybody's going to ignore it. They're delusional. That's not what's going to happen. They're already surrounded with the evidence. The entity engaged in P.O.C., textbook P.O.C., flew directly over my head by helicopter, where you see the fake sun and you know that it's still here 12 hours later. That's how I was able to just capture it the other night at 7 o'clock in the evening, after 7 in the evening. And why are they doing that? These are desperate acts, but this desperation equals an inevitable federal prosecution. And these are the tactics of demons that don't have any other alternatives. This archaic belief. If you engage in bullying someone, the more you bully them, the quieter they get. The more that they engage in gang stalking, the more video documentation, in other words, the more documentation that I publish, in which I've already passed that threshold, the more sure that prosecution and conviction. And I've already passed that threshold. The case is already complete. They engaged in what is providing evidence against all the defendants that are engaged in public corruption as the business economy in. And remember, it's not just economy in. The Driftwood Village Apartments grocery outlet. This is the prosecution against the people of the state. The demons that are living in the apartments across the street. That's called relevant positioning. They're monitoring me in the bathroom as well, while they live with their spouses, with their gay lovers, with their dogs and their kitty cats, with their kids. They're gang stalking as a place of residence. This is the criminal pattern of conduct, and that's why they're living where the fake sun is rising across the street from them and setting on the same side of the street as them, while they are stalking in the path as a community. This is what they were engaged in at Woodside Senior Apartments, keeping the fake sun over me while I'm at Woodside Senior Apartments. At what point in the day is the sun ever going to be over Economy Inn, over the pool, while the entity is engaged in what is keeping that fake sun over Tracy Banks' apartment, which I documented before 7:15 a.m., 6:33 a.m. It's not reflecting off of the buildings of units 48 through, units 33 through 64, when it's remaining over Economy Inn at the same time. That's not going to be in any position to reflect off the windows of that apartment complex where Tracy Banks' apartment is situated, where she's on video gang stalking at that time, in engineer light, under a fake sun that still is there 12 hours later, where the same Ontario Police Department, the same Ontario International Airport, and the same demon-possessed entity, the people of the state, the elderly community, just so that you know that there are no age restrictions with regard to the demon-possessed who are engaged in criminal monitoring and who are violent sex offenders monitoring the genitalia of targeted individuals in an entirely circus environment. The entity is the one that's engaged in what is providing a surefire body of evidence against itself. And that's the futility of stalking the federal prosecutor, where I am directly proving it in real-time evidence both by podcast and images and on video. And the entity engages in what a pattern of kidnapping, just like you see the people of the state Starbucks engaging, just like you see the people of the state Woodside Senior Apartments, that's Aveneth Capital Management, monitoring me with TRACEE Banks, and the same city of Ontario committing kidnapping on May 29, 2025, literally for no reason. Just verbally acknowledging that I used my phone earlier in the day, that's literally irrelevant. It's relevant with regard to prosecuting for obstruction of justice, but under their facts, it's literally irrelevant because I use my phone and you're mad about it. So what? You're engaged in criminal summoning, and with regard to what is the pattern of conduct that's underway, you're understanding what is obstruction of justice, and the entity engages in a pattern of that, and they're always doing it in the environment where they are gang stalking. They are gang stalking on a ceaseless basis. Plane activity, helicopter activity, on doing so under the fake sun that's still here 12 hours later. It's still here 3 hours later when the city of Ontario is gang stalking, like I documented at 10 o'clock in the morning. It's still here 5 hours later, like I documented 12:52 in the afternoon. It's still here like I'm documenting after 1 o'clock, 6 hours later. It's still here when after 7 p.m. When it's reflecting off of the same building, it's still here. It's not in Los Angeles. It never went to Florida. There's only one sun. The entity is engaging in surveillance in a supernatural, that is a demonic environment. And these are the demons, by the way. You need to know that they're not just being removed from office. They're not just being exposed and prosecuted for surveillance. You need to understand that this is the demon possessed. Okay, Michael Gherkin is a maniacal psychopath, a sex offender that's obsessed with my vagina, and he worships Satan. He is a demon-possessed individual. He is filled with the spirit of Satan. And that's what you also need to know. That is the point of giving you the P.O.C. Not just for a prosecution, but for your information. This public corruption pursuant to targeting me and worshiping money and property that they're not getting. And they're still gang stalking. Why? Because they're more obsessed and addicted as demons than they are logical and reasonable. You don't even have a successful objective, and you're putting more evidence on the demons who are definitely going to federal prison. They're front in line. Every act of kidnapping that I'm subject to is because of what Jason Isaac Fields has committed, because of what Tracy Banks has committed, because of what Eric Spencer has committed, because of what every other gang stalker, SCHNITA, MCLAIN, and everybody else that feigned being my friend while they were gang stalking at the same time. And this is the motivation behind lying on my character. Plain lies that are proven to be lies. This is why the government gang stalking me, because they were doing this in court, working on stealing my property and through a secret conservatorship, while simultaneously gang stalking me, which is what the entity is doing everywhere that I'm documenting. And this is economy and engaging in that same pattern of conduct with the same local government in furtherance of murder and kidnapping, because gang stalking is done with the intent to in furtherance of the criminal objective of murder and kidnapping. So they're accomplishing both at the same time, working on my property, stealing it in the courts, and this is done with the state. The court is targeting concerning property that has not been reported to me. They're not ignorantly being given false information while the entity is in the court perjuring itself. All right, they're not ignorantly engaging in that. This is public corruption in the courts while I'm being gang stalked. And this is what you need to understand. This is not an ongoing coincidence. Oh, the judges don't know that people are in courts lying on my character, and they don't know anything about the fact that it's an illegitimate conservatorship that I know nothing about and never participated in, and it is under the law, totally unsubstantiated and unsupported. It's criminal. It's defamatory. While they are gang stalking me at the same time, that's not a coincidence. This is exposing, targeting, and gang stalking, like I stated at the outset of my documentation, is a term of art. Gang stalking is occurring in more sophisticated manners, such as within a court, where you are subject to what is a libelous criminal act of fictitious authority, where the courts are engaged in surveillance, and they are gang stalking by showing gang stalking is relevant to targeting. So you're targeting me concerning property that I was never even told about, meaning there's some disadvantage that I'm suffering. I don't even know about this property that they're in courts talking about, trying to defame my character. Oh, don't give Erica Spencer her property because she does this and she does that. And I don't do any of those things, number one. And number two, I don't even know about the court hearings. I don't even know about the property. I don't even know anything about what's going on. But I am in the background documenting while the entity is suppressing my evidence on the internet at the same time. Obstruction of justice. They're trying to get away with stealing my property, killing me off, kidnapping me away, while you're looking at the obvious criminal conduct of who is engaging in it. The state that's stalking by planes and helicopters, who's going to be removed from office, Alan D. Wapner. Mike Lorenz, the city of Ontario that's engaged in demons who are pacing around me all day long under a fake sun sounding sirens and lights, the criminal misuse of resources of a city, corrupt businesses that are renting out or letting out hotel rooms to a bunch of demons who are gang stalking, while that business profits from it, a bunch of demons who are making coffee drinks in order to aid in what is surveillance while they're profiting off of gang stalking that's happening, that's facilitated by that establishment, a bunch of demons that are gang stalking by residents in concert with the same city of Ontario, where I'm documenting the same pattern, heavy helicopter activity over the apartment where Tracy Banks lives, impossible light activity filling the inside and all over the apartment building where Tracy Banks lives, the fake sun from sunrise until sunset over the apartment building where Tracy Banks lives, which is at Woodside Senior Apartments at 408 West G Street, not adjacent to, not across the street, nowhere near, not sharing the sky space of being over 2301 South Euclid Avenue. Not coexisting at all. It doesn't even coexist with being over Starbucks, being visible out of the window of the Starbucks, which is facing south. And it's the same with regard to Starbucks 507 North Euclid Avenue and 2301 South Euclid Avenue. It's the same with the Ovid Family Community Library. The entity is engaged in the documented pattern of conduct to keeping the fake sun within 0.4 miles from the Tabor Professional Building to the Ovid Family Community Library at 215 EC Street. I walk there. I walk from the Tabor to the Starbucks in the morning to the Ovid Family Community Library, and that's where the fake sun rises, and that's where the fake sun sets, on that one block. I'm at 2301 South Euclid Avenue. There's several more miles added there in a direction south, which is not shared with the Tabor Professional Building. It's not shared with it's not shared with the Starbucks at 507. You're not going to see the sun at any time of day through the window of the Starbucks that's on Euclid Avenue, and that window's facing south. There's not going to be any sunlight covering any of the Starbucks that they're walking in. There's no sunlight that's ever going to occur by opening a door and swiping in and out through that cafe, both outside and inside, while demons who are monitoring, stalking with light, engage in that iteration of molestation, stalking with impossible light, exhibiting demon possession, which is in the physical addressed as exhibiting severe mental illness. This is the special needs status that is objectively demonstrated in order to diagnose it, in order to protect the public from those that are engaging in what is gang stalking. This is the psychopathic pattern of conduct targeting American citizens, which is a threat. They're domestic enemies while they're engaging in criminal monitoring with the corrupt government, and they're also psychopaths and violent sex offenders. They are domestic terrorists that are targeting American citizens and doing it under my circumstance for money. But these demons that are gang stalking, living behind dumpsters and gang stalking me for free, you need to understand that the demon possessed who are maniacal psychopaths, they don't need any incentive. They do it because of their mental illness. They are inclined to engage in psychologically harmful behaviors targeting other people. And this is not just gang stalking by keeping your back to someone. This is the entity that's demonstrating a willfulness and an ability to engage in what is murder for no reason while they're targeting someone, to engage in what is rape, to engage in kidnapping, physical violence for no reason while they're targeting, okay? The entity is engaging in violence while they're stalking by plane and helicopter under the fake sun, while I am an American citizen documenting, and it's directly incriminating to the establishment economy, and that's already on the record committing kidnapping that the federal government has not addressed while sitting back watching it happen. Terrorists like Jason Isaac Fields belong in federal prison. This is a psychopath who is targeting, and even his sexual activity with demons that I know and demons that I'm related to is demonstrating his mental illness. This is an entirely unstable creature, defaming my character, and everything that he spoke against myself are the things that he's committed. All right. He's the promiscuous street walking whore. He's the one that does things for money. He's the one that had sex with a 60-year-old woman because he thought that he was going to benefit monetarily. But of course, I had to be sacrificed in that equation. That's somebody that's capable of murder. That's the person that's capable of harming another person, an innocent person, because they seek to benefit from it. And this person, Jason Isaac Fields, did it while abusing a government position. Did it while you're giving an excuse as to, oh, well, I was told this about the targeted individual. There's nothing, and there's no gossip, first of all, that I would ever even give ear to and entertain. But second of all, even if it ever did trespass my ears, that would provoke me or be the reason why I would engage in any level of violence or gossip against against another person. But this is not just ordinary gossip. This is defamation that's committed in the courts while they're perjuring themselves. But understand, it's not just merely perjury. This is within the P.O.C. The court is gang stalking. The court is gang stalking furtherance of murder and kidnapping. When the court adjudicates over manufactured false information, the court commits and facilitates a kidnapping by that government that's stalking me outside in planes and helicopters in order to keep me in a facility where they're just engaging in that same exact pattern of conduct, psychological torture, stalking you inside of facilities where they're keeping engineer light and keeping a fake sun over that facility, and gang stalking through those that are working at the facility, calling themselves demons that have the formal training to call themselves medical professionals, demons that have the background and the training to call themselves deputies or police officers, etc. They're engaged in this pattern of conduct in the corrupt facilities where gang stalking courts are entertaining secret and fake conservatorships and demons that are bearing false witness while the target individual is simultaneously being targeted, just like I documented on video right now. Don't forget the bigger picture. That's my point. Do not get lost in the trees. You are always looking at the forest. Nothing is occurring in a vacuum, but even if you were to look at this in a vacuum, the entity is clearly gang stalking. So this is the entity that engaged in what is, again, they're highly unintelligent. I am bullying them with the evidence. So what do? More evidence against themselves. Mike Lorenz is not staying in office. Neither is Paul Leon. Neither is Alan D. Wapner. Neither is any gang stalking fire chief Michael Gherkin. They're all out of office. They're all exposed as sex offenders. They worship my vagina. And then they go home to their wives or their gay lovers, whatever it is that they lay down with that night, while they're worshiping my vagina. That's what is the concern of whoever they're with, because they're engaged in what is monitoring my vagina, and they call that their jobs in while they're sitting in positions of authority. Sex offenders, gang stalkers, those engaging in criminal surveillance. That is not what is legitimate, the legitimate business of the people. I'm documenting gang stalking at the city hall. The sun is not going to be at the city hall at 9:32 a.m. But you also know that that's not the sun because I'm documenting that same city hall while the fake sun is over me at 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. There's a history of evidence exposing Paul Leon as a demon-possessed gang stalking psychopath who is obsessed with my vagina. Okay, these are demons that engage in ritualistic conduct, worshiping the person that is different from them, and meaning I'm different because they serve Satan. These are lower beings who are in positions that they're going to be removed from. It's exposing public corruption because the demons are unfit to be in office. The demons are dangerous to be fully exposed in the public, flying planes. All right, and being in law enforcement. The demons pose a threat to the public while they're operating corrupt businesses where they're both profiting and also engaging in what is targeting American citizens. This is the danger of the demons as I'm exposing the system that they practice. Okay, this is the entity that's engaging in that. And by the way, none of them are strangers. This is understanding gang stalking. People that are explaining it as, oh, strangers are stalking me, it's just because they don't understand the system of federal group stalking and monitoring. And this is the service that the P.O.C. provides. You are not being targeted by strangers. These are demons who know exactly who you are. And the fake sun that's over me at 7 in the morning, the fake sun that's still here at 12:52 in the afternoon, the fake sun that's still here at 1 in the afternoon and at 7 in the evening. This is speaking to what are demons who are not, they're identified as the entity that's stalking directly, flying over my head by plane and helicopter in that environment. While I am engaged in documentation, none of those coincidences, direct evidence of an unintelligent demons who are lower beings who have no ability to address it. All they do at this point is provide more evidence against them. And remember, who else is going to federal prison? There are judges going to federal prison for what I just documented again, because this is what they were engaged in. They were targeting me while they're trying to steal my property in court hearings that I know nothing about. Those court hearings are criminal acts. Okay? The court hearings that are criminal acts committed by the entity that is targeting. Targeting is proof through the property that they're seeking to steal through defamation. Targeting is proven through what are court hearings that I know nothing about. There's no excuse with regard to the United States Postal Service never giving me the message. The United States Postal Service, Amazon Prime, UPS that's gang stalking in this video that you just listened to me. They are the same entity as the gang stalking courts that are not delivering me mail about the court hearings. It's not separate. It's all connected. And I've already laid out the entirety of that pattern of conduct. They are providing evidence against themselves. And the entity that is Satan, that is already lost, is the spirit of mental illness. The root of what is the special needs behavior of the entity that is gang stalking, where there's no mystery. And where there's no mystery, you are seeing the unhinged psychopaths in their pure form, stalking by flying, hovering over the hotel, They're flying over a grocery store, over a field. They're flying south on Euclid Avenue along with traffic to hover over this hotel building to fly in the direction south. They're doing nothing other than stalking. It does not get any more foolish with regard to what is a straightforward prosecution in my favor with regard to what is historic, an unprecedented criminal act committed by the government. Stalking an American citizen, which I proved already. And they also did it because they thought that they were going to steal my money by trying to falsely depict the character of an American citizen who's proven that you're stalking them. No, no, no. You're going to be prosecuted for stalking. And you're also going to be diagnosed for the mental illness. Those are mentally ill, special needs status. Those who are flying UPS planes, they are mentally ill. Okay, those that are flying helicopters in the city of Ontario, which you know as the Ontario Police Department, any other demon that they got to fly in a different color helicopter, it's attributed to the same state of California, and the Ontario Police Department is still being disbanded. The Ontario Police Department that's gang stalking day and night, repeatedly engaged in documented acts of kidnapping that they're going to prison for. They're going to federal prison. All right, and so are the people of the state. It's 7:54 a.m. The entity sounding plane activity under a fake sun. This is nothing other than always pointing to the mental illness of those who are worshiping. This is idolatry of those whom the demons are worshiping. They worship you through stalking you. They worship you through pacing all around you. They worship you through keeping a whole specific environment, a whole circus environment, the fake sun during the day, the fake moon at night, all manner of light that's just manifesting out of nowhere. They're worshiping you. It's idolatry. They're worshiping you while they're stalking you, all right? While they are even harassing you and attacking your character. It is Satan's hostile and aggressive form, and you're going to prosecute under the law for it. But this is spiritually understanding. This is idolatry while the demons worship you. Okay, and it's a threat to the public while the government are a bunch of demon-possessed gang stalkers who are going to be removed from office. They're going to be prosecuted as the domestic terrorists that they are, and they're going to be deported out of this country like the domestic enemies that they are. It is currently 7:55 a.m. This is all criminal conduct attributed to the city of Ontario. Don't forget about who's pacing in the parking lot yesterday afternoon after not coming to my hotel room in contradiction to what they stated is going to be the basis of remaining in the hotel room. Oh, we're going to come every day, which is a threat to me because when they're coming every day, they're monitoring every day. They're engaging in the exact same thing that I documented Mercy House engaging in. Mercy House gang stalking me with the city of Ontario under the fake sun. I documented this in 2021. They're engaged in what is gang stalking under the fake sun. Mercy House gang stalking with the demons whose hotel rooms they paid for, monitoring me together. Okay, the demons that are pacing, they're doing so in the same way that Mercy House committed, which is already on the record. Mercy House is a domestic enemy, gang stalking American citizens, and this is what the city of Ontario is replicating the same pattern of conduct. This is understanding demon possession, the same demonic spirit, different face, different government name. Okay, this is what gang stalking is. 1302476 is the city of Ontario, their license plate. The fake sun is over me as I'm documenting at this same parking lot at 1:22 in the afternoon. I just documented the city of Ontario providing evidence against its co-defendant, and that's just the immediate evidentiary purpose. Big picture, the gang stalking court. The gang stalkers that are engaged in perjury in court, defaming my name with regard to the objective of gang stalking, trying to steal my property and falsely depict my character. And the law is also going to change because no gang stalking entity is accomplishing anything with regard to defaming the character of an American citizen. This is proven to be unconstitutionally vague legislation, which is also used by a corrupt government that's engaged in surveillance unbeknownst to American citizens. And amongst the surveillance system, American citizens are being targeted. They're being targeted while the government practices a corrupt system of trying to steal trust from American citizens, trying to steal inheritances from American citizens. And they know exactly who you are. And they know that you're advanced, by the way. They know that you're gifted. They know how intelligent or whatever it is that's about you that's exceptional. They know it. While they're defaming your character and gang stalking, trying to psychologically torture you into insanity. Now, against the ordinary targeted individual on whose behalf I'm advocating, that is very well calculated and anticipated. But I even want to be clear, even when the targeted individual, the ordinary targeted individual reacts like a human being that's subject to an unabated program of torture, that's not mental illness. You need to be made aware that the government is targeting people, stalking them in planes and helicopters in conformity to the pattern of conduct like you just heard and like you'll see on video, you just witnessed. And I've captured that thousands of times. The entities engaging in what is torturing American citizens, sitting back, watching and stalking them, engaging in voyeurism, and then claiming a human being's reaction to that as mental illness. The entity didn't get that toward me. What the entity got was witnessing its exposure while I documented it. And I'm also exposing all of their tactics. They also pray to Satan. They also summon demons. They also practice voodoo and black magic and spell work, which are invisible means of targeting as well. And then they sit back and call it mental illness. No, you're being spiritually attacked. These are the demons that are sitting in government, and you vote for them or you follow them on social media. You're friends with them. They're in your family. And they're targeting American citizens in the United States. And they're capitalizing off of it. Starbucks. They're capitalizing off of it. Avanath Capital Management, speaker companies. These are corrupt companies that are engaging in the pattern of conduct as I've documented it. And I'm going to prosecute. I'm going to enforce my rights. And it is an elaborate conspiracy. And I've proven that conspiracy. This is not some unsupported conspiracy theory. Like demons and ignorant facilitators of this corrupt system, which is inhumane, you are aiding in that. And you need to educate yourself before you speak against, which is adding harm to American citizens who are actually suffering in ways that you know nothing about. And just because you don't know anything about it, that does not mean you should open your face and speak on it. Your ignorance is harmful. Okay? The entity's engaging in this, and it's very much demonic, meaning it's higher than you. You don't even understand what it is that is going on a whole other level. You're very much ignorant. So the entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct and is targeting American citizens. And it's not mental illness. They are human beings who are being targeted, tortured in ways that they don't even understand, that they can't articulate or define or reconcile, because why is it happening in the first place? A lot of times they have inheritance, they have trust funds they don't even know about. They don't know about it. They don't know why they're being targeted, and they don't even know that they're being targeted per se. But they're being targeted. And the evidence of the P.O.C. is demonstrating that. Now, what do the unintelligent special needs population do? When they are faced with what is evidence, insurmountable evidence, when I have, in other words, bullied them with the proof of what's exposing them worldwide, and I'm also going to prosecute them, they provide more evidence against themselves. They provide evidence against their mental illness to diagnose it. They provide evidence against their criminal conduct to prosecute it. They provide evidence against their disqualification, their being misfit for office and positions of authority. That's what they provide. Because Paul Leon's being removed from office while I'm subject to gang stalking at Economy Inn. All right, Mike Lorenz and every gang stalking demon at the heads of these corrupt departments in Ontario are being removed from office. As I have proven this, the entire city of Ontario, I have literally wiped the streets and the venues where they're gang stalking me with evidence, insurmountable evidence. And I want to be clear, even as they continue, this is acts of desperation. The acts of desperation by the demon possessed, meaning you're desperate when you're still gang stalking by planes. That's evidence, criminal conduct that's directly attributable, not attributable, not only to the obvious actor, Alan D. Wapner, the Ontario International Airport, the venue where I'm located, the people that stayed around me. There are people that are engaged in the pattern of conduct that's connected to what's happening in the immediate environment. And they are doing their own selves a disservice. The demons are caught. They're exposed. They're walking around butt naked, in other words. Let me put it in raw terms like that. They are fully exposed. Their desperation in continuing that which is already unsuccessful is also you need to necessarily pay attention, because this is their mental illness that is put in plain view for you to witness, for you to be informed of. It's the spirit of Satan, who already lost and will continue even though he already lost. The demon possessed are going to sit in court. They're going to answer for the criminal conduct that they're engaging in. And they're engaging in it as an entity. TRACEE Banks is going to be prosecuted. She's going to federal prison for what the people of the state and what the state of California is doing while I'm at Economy Inn. This is why this gang stalker sought to use the secret conservatorship, and she thought all her little demon possessed buddies were going to have the most elaborate, most intelligent, most capable act of attacking me that no one would ever know about, because they're so elite, because they're so stealth, all right, because they're so capable, nobody can see them, they're so smooth. They are not. They are so demonic and so delusional. They are so perverted. They're a bunch of thieves and sex offenders. There's nothing elite about that. I'm embarrassing Satan, and I'm going to prosecute them. Okay, and this is what TRACEE Banks cooperated with, and this is how she recruited a bunch of demons that were not ever really my friends and fake family members, and they're all going to federal prison for it. This is the system. How's it practically working in the corrupt court where they're engaged in perjuring themselves? Oh, they're lying on my character while they're gang stalking me on the roads and the highways and at every facilitating venue, including at Tracy Banks' apartment, including where she lives. That's how bright she is. They're going to prison. Okay? They're all going to prison. There's no sex ritual that they could come up with where they will have any demonic spirit that's going to slow down this accelerated evidence of exposing what they are and how they do what they do. And by the way, it's highly unintelligent. Okay? It's highly unintelligent. The entity engages in this pattern of conduct with a level of, let me show you this, P.O.C. This is the entity gang stalking, flying right over my hotel room under the fake sun. This is again flying south. The entity is doing so while the fake sun is still here, monitoring me while in real time providing evidence against the entity. This is targeting that is clearly shown. The entity is flying over the DePort Professional Building at 325 West G Street. The entity is flying over the Ontario Village Shopping Center on Holt Boulevard as though they're taking off there. The entity is engaging in what is flying adjacent to the 280 North Limit Apartments like they're taking off there. The entity is not feigning any takeoff. They're clearly targeting by flying over this hotel room, amplifying the plane activity, far from taking off from any airport at 2500, 2900 Airport Drive, doing so while I happen to be documenting the people of the state that are going to be prosecuted while the demons are stalking inside of their hotel rooms under the fake sun that is still here. It's 8:05 a.m. and the entity is gang stalking at Mobile. That's light activity, crossing path, all of the freeway, doing so while the entity is stalking in the sky space. This is again ongoing aerial surveillance. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct while demons are using commercial planes hovering over my hotel room. This is exactly what I was documenting when I was in the room at the opposite end in 2021. And the demons weren't flying over this end, they were flying over that end where my room was, where the fake sun was, where I'm documenting that pattern of conduct. This is Alan D. Wapner's public removal and exposure. He is engaged in domestic terrorism in the state of California, in the United States. And the entity that is gang stalking through commercial planes does so in an obvious manner. This is hovering, flying in the direction south, making a U-turn. They're not even acting like they're taking off. This is what they're doing everywhere. It's not a persuasive appearance of taking off. You're not taking off everywhere in the city of Ontario. And you're certainly not taking off at 2301 South Euclid Avenue. You are gang stalking. You're doing so with all the demons that are stalking in the path pursuant to the provision of amplified audible activity, where the entity is gang stalking and the fake sun is remaining right over the venue, okay? As it's reflecting off of the windshields, it's right here, like I captured on video. And this is light activity, relative positioning, and ongoing audible activity. 5 SBA 114 is monitoring with the Ontario International Airport. That's the City of Ontario, P.O.C. And that's Impossible Light on the ground. A demon is gang stalking with the establishment economy in. And this is the entity that committed kidnapping on September 25th, 2020. And guess who's going to federal prison? Everybody engaged in that. A. Morris committed kidnapping. Corporal Kemp committed kidnapping and did so pursuant to what is the pattern of conduct that's underway right now. And so did the gang stalkers who are likely gang stalking immigrants. And they're still here monitoring while the City of Ontario is aiding in that criminal endeavor. Okay? This is Mobile crossing path right here, gang stalking in the path, where the entity is maintaining the fake sun, and all they're doing is maintaining presence as an entity. This demon is wearing a blue shirt. He's right here behind these green trees, behind the leaves right here, right there, stalking in the path, engaged in federal stalking together, monitoring a woman, monitoring my vagina inside of my hotel room with all of these demons who are engaged in surveillance as well. That's why Impossible Light, while you saw me walking, I'm taking pictures of this gate, it's appearing, manifesting a light on all that, they're all monitoring together. And that's proven while the entity maintains plane activity over my hotel room in conformity to the pattern of conduct. It is currently 8:07 a.m. That's what the entity is doing day and night. And the entity is amplifying plane activity inside of the depths of the bathroom, monitoring my vagina when I'm in that private space. And everything happening in this hotel room is a matter of public information. That's the sex offense committed by third parties like Mobile Gas, committed by third parties like Economy Inn, Starbucks, the corporation, headquartered in Seattle, and the entity that is gang stalking, as I'm showing at every business, at KFC, at Carl's Jr., all right, Omnitrans gang stalking. While I'm on Omnitrans and the fake sun is not stationary for 12 hours, it's remaining in the window of the bus, street for street and term for term, the entire route, which is also attributed to the criminal conduct of Alan D. Wapner. Okay, both the Ontario International Airport and the gang stalker Omnitrans. And this is going to be dealt with on a government level. And with regard to the civilian population that's sharing in criminal surveillance, this is P.O.C. And this is what the entity is doing, listening to me document on my device, and it's ceaselessly engaging, and it's exhibiting severe mental illness of that special needs status that's engaged in public corruption. The 60 freeways is sharing in the pattern of conduct. Okay, this is P.O.C. It's currently 8:08 a.m. at 231 South Euclid Avenue. Alrighty, you're listening to me document the City of Ontario gang stalking by commercial planes. I'm doing so while they are listening to me document, okay? Like I stated, as the entity engages in the pattern of conduct, they exhibit their own mental illness. They are doing so as with regard to stalking somebody, and that's all that they're doing by flying south over this building. It's an empty field. It's a grocery store. It's Euclid Avenue. What is taking off from the Starbucks at the E Street and Euclid is not flying in the direction and the clear opposite, flying south to fly over where I'm positioned at Economy N, to fly south and make a U-turn. And not only that, hovering and doing so. I've documented them hovering over me at the grocery outlet on the opposite side of this building. I've documented them flying directly over my head while I'm standing at that Mobile gas in between the property line of Economy N and Mobile. I've documented the entity gang stalking flying over every venue where I'm documenting the P.O.C. This is the entity that's exposing itself. The gang stalking courts, the gang stalking sheriff, the gang stalking police are gang stalking with the population, which is where the City of Ontario is using commercial planes, which is going directly to what is an airport engaged in surveillance. That airport is exposed as what is a national security threat, which is supporting shutting it down. This criminal conduct is speaking to what is a devotion to domestic terrorism, not engaging in what is paying for flights. Southwest Airlines, Delta Airlines, you have United Airlines, American Airlines, Amazon Prime Air, UPS, and the entity that's gang stalking by FedEx commercial planes, Frontier Airlines. The entities engaged in what is the pattern of conduct using every airline that's associated with the Ontario International Airport, which I've documented, to engage in criminal surveillance. Never mind that they also simultaneously accept money and take flights to destinations. They're engaging in domestic terrorism surveillance, which is what's going on in the state of California. Okay, so when I'm documenting this level of surveillance, this level of corruption by an airport, engaging in this level of desperation, what is it that you're accomplishing? Because they've already forfeited. They've lost in what was supposed to be a secret means of targeting in order to make me look one way on paper, in order to support a secret conservatorship and help TRACEE Banks and Jason Isaac Fields steal my property, and the government intended to steal in that property. How many gang stalking police officers have taken out illegal loans in my name? How many of them have taken out PP loans in my name? How many of them have engaged in what is fraud against my name? The government, the people of the state. This is the entity that is not targeting as strangers. The entity is targeting an American citizen. They know very well who you are and the specific environment for your ability to witness the truth that I'm speaking. But it's also very obvious when they're stalking in the specific environment with planes and helicopters over my head, inside of the hotel, far from any sort of, there's no reconciling. How are you taking off from the airport and flying south over the hotel room at Economy Inn? Hovering, how is that? There's no reconciling. That's what I mean by the obvious engagement. But even when I'm showing you how to scrutinize the details, because the devil, that's a truism right there. The devil is in the details. It literally is being able to understand. I'm showing you what you're looking at. And I'm not telling you how to think. I show you the pattern of conduct over and over and over and over and over again. And I let you look at it over and over and over and over and over again. And then I'm going to show you, okay, this is what you've been looking at the whole time. I'm showing you a consistent body of evidence. And this is, in case you cannot see, this is the ongoing pattern of conduct over and over and over again. In case you did not notice, I'm at the same address at 7 in the evening and the sun is at the same location. I'm not telling you what to think about that. We already know, a fifth grader knows that the sun does not remain at one address all day long. This is where the entity is deviating from taking off from any airport in Ontario, or in San Bernardino, or in Upland, or in Los Angeles, and hovering over my hotel room where it's amplified in volume, and they're flying in the direction south, making U-turns over my hotel room. That's clear targeting, and it's also proven targeting in that environment, which is demonic, i.e. supernatural, where the pattern of conduct of federal group stalking monitoring is underway. And for the entity to do so at this juncture in the evidence, meaning I've already proven that you're gang stalkers. I've already proven that you're monitoring everywhere. I've already proven how you engage in it. And you've also proven, literally, the people of the state that are sitting in courts lying on my character simultaneously, what was their motive while you're gang stalking me. That is the evidence of their mental illness when you're looking at the bare bones desperation. What are you achieving now? You understand that these are demons who are obsessed and addicted to me, stalking. This is the spirit of Satan that has no successful vantage point. There's no successful end here at all for the demons. For the government that's going to be held accountable, that is being held accountable and exposed for it. There is no successful end for the people of the state. You're not staying in this hotel, gang stalking, and going on with the rest of your life as though nothing is going to happen. There's no successful end for any of them. Okay, there's no successful end for gang stalking as a corrupt means of a government. Paying for hotel rooms while engaged in what is federal group stalking and monitoring. I want to be clear, the entity's engagement in what is that malicious pattern of conduct is exposing mental illness. Number one, public corruption as you're going to prosecute and diagnose. And also it's relevant for what is the unlawful threat, the ongoing impunity. This is relevant for what is that prosecution and the basis of, this is how you get to federal prison. Okay, this is the entity that's engaging in gang stalking in planes. The entity is going to be producing the demons' identity who are stalking in planes and who are stalking in helicopters. They're, again, they're more obsessed and addicted than they are logical and engaged in what is any sort of, there's no, the government's position in a court, they don't have one. They're already proven. I prosecuted on the internet first, and then I'm going to achieve what is a conviction, an impressive and historic one, in a federal tribunal for terrorism, domestic terrorism, because that's what this is. This is terrorism that's happening by the United States government in the United States, California, and I'm in California. Excuse me, terrorism is happening by the United States government in the United States, and I am in the state of California. So the entities engaging in domestic terrorism in this country, and the historic ability to prove that, and the inevitable justice that I am entitled to, that I'm due, that this government also sought to withhold, sought to delay, sought to deprive. And I'm even going to prosecute for that. It's relevant to damages. It's relevant to what they never had the right to do it in the first place. You don't become some legitimate, nobody cares about you claiming that you saw the light. The entity is still gang stalking me. Still. The Ontario Police Department is still stalking. They're still stalking. All right, so understand all of that unprecedented level of threatening conduct. They're doing so in plain view. That demon that's on video, crossing path, driving in the parking lot, engaged in domestic terrorism. That level of impunity, that level of detail of facilitating state stalking is exactly what's going to be dealt with. Every single aspect of it. Monitoring in plain view. The government that flew over by commercial plane, the government is stalking while that demon is engaged in what is stalking in the parking lot, and that was concerted conduct. Okay, while they're listening to me document in real time. All of this which is exposing and demonstrating impunity. Disregard for the state and federal constitutions. Disregard of what is not to be tolerated, which is terrorism, not even by the American government, not even by the U.S. government, not by any American citizen, and by any gang-stalking immigrant, under no circumstances. But this is what they're doing right now. This is what an entity is doing, and while you're witnessing them doing it, they're doing it while they know that they have no cover. You're already exposed as targeting me. It's already proven, and you're still doing it. That's also evidence of the mental illness that I have been telling you about from the beginning. Okay? From the beginning. The entity is going to produce its own identity. You're going to federal prison for gang stalking and commercial planes, and you're going to be subject to regular mental examinations. You're going to federal prison for gang stalking in helicopters, and you will definitely be subject to routine mental examinations. If I document you gang stalking by flying in circles in helicopters, you're going straight to a mental asylum. Just like any other demon that I'm documenting at Woodside Senior Apartments, the demon in unit number 55, she liked to engage in running in circles, and it's amplified in audible activity. That's the demon that's going straight to a mental asylum. TRACEE Banks is going to a federal prison, but she's going to the asylum. Okay? The entities engaging in this pattern of conduct and that level of impunity is what's directly relevant and what's informing federal policy. This conduct is what is speaking to the necessity of changing the laws, while the government that's targeting American citizens in this country is doing so to steal money and property that they know belongs to such American citizens, and those American citizens don't even know about it. And even if they do know about it, like myself, I did not know about it. So, but you have these demons, you have TRACEE Banks and her sex partners, people that she let in on how she thought she was going to go to the bank on my back, and I'm going to be locked up for the rest of my life. That was her retirement plan. She's going to retire in a cell, and that's where she's going to expire as well. And that's just a reality. That's what she chose to do. I would have bought her property. I would have, but that wasn't enough. She wanted me to die. This demon thought that she was going to sacrifice me to Satan, who she worships. Her and every other demon-possessed family member that engaged in bearing false witness on my name, as surely as the city of Ontario is providing evidence as to why they were doing that in the courts, they're going to federal prison. All right, it's currently 8:18 a.m. The city of Ontario's gang stalking and its evidence against Eric Corey Spencer, he's going to federal prison. Jason Isaac Fields, Tracy Banks, KARI HEABERLIN, Ariana Elena Lopez, who may have a different last name. I believe she may have married some third party. The last time I checked, she was residing in Lancaster, California. Any of the people of the state, in other words, that are bearing false witness, they're aiding the government that's targeting, and you're going to federal prison for that. They're doing so while conspiring my murder, while seeking to conceal my identity of who I am, while they're trying to establish and make an identity on paper, one that is defamatory, in order to steal property that they also know belongs to me. And gang stalking with the government is the fast ticket to prison. Okay, you're not stealing any of my property, and I just provided evidence about why and how gang stalking courts are identified as a part of the targeting entity. All right, it is currently 8:19 a.m. This is the unintelligence entity that's engaged in that P.O.C. This is the special needs population. They're all stalking under a fake sun. They include the employees who are the people. They include the entity that's on the 60 freeway. They include the entity that's living in relevant position. They include the entity that's maintaining what are all the means of business. The Arco gasoline. There's a shopping plaza that's on the opposite side of the 60 freeway. That's just the immediate environment. Everywhere that I go, which I've proven, the entity is following with the specific environment, with this demonic environment, stalking me with the whole environment. These are demons. Okay, these are demons who are stalking, and that's why business establishments will be civilly and criminally prosecuted for domestic terrorism, where they're targeting American citizens. And they thought that their unintelligent and psychopathic pattern of conduct was going to falsely depict the character of the target individual. No, the evidence is going to be used to diagnose them and prosecute them. And the government is also it's the same special needs population. And they have provided the evidence, which is a surefire prosecution, to prosecute and remove those corrupt demons from position of authority and prosecute the co-defendants, the people of the state. They are not capable. They are not elite. There's nothing intelligent. There's nothing high-minded about it. It's the most idiotic, it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life, and it is the easiest case. It's just because it takes time in order to demonstrate for other people to witness it. That's the pattern of conduct that you're necessarily capturing it over a prolonged period of time, but it's an easy case. Okay, the entity is engaging in what is a pattern of conduct, and it could not be more idiotic what the special needs population practices in targeting American citizens that are clearly, again, inundated with demons, inundated in a demonic environment, inundated with what is our means of psychological torture, and no demon is going to stop me. And I stated that from the beginning. The demons are here for me to expose them. The demons are here for me to prosecute and diagnose them. Because the demons are hiding in the bodies of government officials. The demons are hiding in the bodies of family members and fake friends. The demons are hiding in the bodies of the civilian population, and they're going to be placed in medical facilities. Because in courts, we don't talk about demons and ghouls and spell work. We talk about laws and policies and procedure. And we talk about what is the objective and tangible evidence, the objective actions taken and the tangible evidence proving violation of laws that exist and laws that shall come into existence. And I'm going to put the demon possessed in all the facilities where they belong. Okay? It's currently 8:22 a.m. It's July 19, 2025, and the video that you listen to me document, it's going to be published on YouTube, and that is the evidence of what the City of Ontario was engaging in when I'm documenting the City of Ontario yesterday afternoon at 1 in the afternoon. The entity is engaging in this conduct. The City of Ontario repeatedly was flying over my room, and the entity is maintaining my room with ongoing vibration and sensational activity. In other words, shaking and vibrating of the floor, while the demons are walking on the second level. They're all pacing together. And what's the guise for their pacing? Oh, they're all going down to get snacks from the City of Ontario, which, by the way, everybody knew to go downstairs and get their snacks instead of the City of Ontario going to everybody's room and handing out snacks, because they didn't come to my room and I didn't know to walk downstairs to go get a snack from the City of Ontario. That's because those demons were targeting together under the fake sun that's still over this parking lot, like I documented at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. This is where the City of Ontario was targeting through commercial planes, just like you heard and like you'll see on video. This is what they were doing while wearing and driving municipality vehicles and gang stalking as the same corrupt entity that I'm documenting at Woodside Senior Apartments, that I'm documenting at the Tabor Professional Building, that I'm documenting at 7-Eleven at 636 North Vine Avenue, that I'm documenting documenting at Starbucks at 507 North Euclid Avenue, that I'm documenting at what is Woodside Senior Apartments at 408 West G Street in Ontario, California, that I'm documenting at the Ovid Family Community Library at 215 East C Street in Ontario, California, 91764, that I'm documenting at the Ontario Museum of History and Arts, that I'm documenting at every location, the Stater Brothers, at 636 West Holt Boulevard, 646 West Holt Boulevard, at the Starbucks at 706 West Holt Boulevard, where the entity is hovering over that Starbucks. The fake sun is over my head at that Starbucks at San Antonio Avenue and Holt Boulevard in Ontario, like they're taking off from the airport there, and they are at Economy Inn at 2301 South Euclid Avenue. There's only one airport in Ontario, and there's only two terminals, Terminals 2 and Terminal 4, and the entity is engaged in all manner of targeting through the Ontario International Airport, and it's the criminal conduct, the domestic terrorism that is under the corrupt and dangerous leadership of Alan D. Wapner, who is obsessed with my vagina while he worships me, and demons are flying commercial planes of every airline at that Ontario International Airport stalking me. And it's exposing their mental illness and their criminal conduct in conformity to a P.O.C. that is very heavily documented and supported in other cities and counties as well. And the entity is doing so that is putting the people of the state that are gang stalking at every aforesaid venue, at every location. They're going to be prosecuted as well as the prosecution of the state of California, while idiots are stalking in planes in an obvious and incriminating manner. That's what you're going to see. I'm going to publish all this video onto the internet right now. It's 8:24 a.m. This is what the city of Ontario was doing yesterday afternoon. Okay, where all the demons in all the hotel rooms, again, they all knew to come downstairs and get snacks from them. They're pacing. They're pacing while inside of my hotel room, ongoing amplified audible activity, because these demons they're demons. And while they're walking, it's creating sensational activity inside of my hotel room. That's supernatural. This is how the demon possessed are stalking with their back to you, because they don't have to look at you and talk to you. These are demon possessed people, and Satan is merely using their bodies, and I'm going to prosecute those bodies that have government names and identities, because they're intentionally doing it of their own volition. Being demon possessed is not a legal argument. It's not a defense. I'm going to prosecute them. It's domestic terrorism. It's gang stalking. It's currently 8:25 a.m. on what is Saturday, July 19th, 2025. This is the prosecution of the state of California, the disbanding of the Ontario Police Department, the removal of Paul Leon and every other demon-possessed gang stalker on this corrupt city council that's engaged in state surveillance, proving the case against the state of California while they continuously target what is the assigned federal. All right, it is currently 11:01 a.m., capturing the fake sun that is still present over me at the same venue that I captured at 7 this morning. And the documentation of federal group stalking and monitoring, well, you will see the fake sun remain over me follow to Mobile at 231 South Euclid Avenue, where the city of Ontario is gang stalking with Mobile and gang stalking with the people of the state at Mobile, and engaged in gang stalking in real time while I document the following people of the state who are engaged in additional federal charges: obstruction of justice while the entity engages in additional acts of terrorism, stalking with commercial planes over my hotel room under the fake sun, while they're engaged in federal stalking under Title 18 with knowledge of the fact that they are being documented. So that's surveillance and also surveillance of the evidence. While the Ontario International Airport at 11:01 a.m. right now is amplifying plane activity as I'm documenting the following people of the state. Gang stalking immigrants are going to be deported. So any of these Latino male and females that are gang stalking inside of this Mobile gas station, while I'm documenting them monitoring in this specific environment, the fake sun is there for the criminal purpose of surveillance, where the demon possessed of all races, all ages, all socioeconomic backgrounds, including those with criminal records and lacking criminal records, where they're engaging in that pattern of conduct as a business establishment, and their business is serving for what is federal group stalking and monitoring. That is, you're making money while gang stalking an American citizen, which is an exceedingly violent sex offense, while I'm inside of a hotel room, and everything inside of my hotel room is under surveillance by Mobile and Mobile employees and Mobile patrons who are engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring, as I walked right across the parking lot in order to show you the fake sun that moved from being over the same exact location where it was 3 hours earlier, first of all. Second of all, it moved in real time while I walk across and document 2315 South Euclid Avenue, the mobile gas station, where you'll see the fake sun over me. And that is seconds movement to be over mobile, which you'll see in the image captured at 10:59 a.m. And then you'll see it return as I walk in real time, the evidence of stalking under a fake sun. The entity that is stalking is doing so under a fake sun. That's a prosecution of every business in California that's engaged in criminal surveillance, federal stalking under Title 18, and the government that's engaged in federal stalking. The special needs population that provides direct evidence of their stalking by using planes and helicopters, like you witnessed on this podcast and as you witnessed on video as it's already published on the internet right now. That is the special needs population that's going to be removed from the threat that they pose to the American public, both by gang stalking with the demon-possessed people of the state and by being gang stalkers in the positions of authority and in public positions of office while the entity is exposed for gang stalking. And the entity is engaging in what is gang stalking while they are being simultaneously prosecuted and exposed. That is speaking to a very much highly unhinged and maniacal stalker that is obsessed with what is not remaining a secret, and they're not going to accomplish the entire purpose in the first place. But you're also speaking to how you're going to prosecute any stalker that is not stopped by your documentation of them stalking you. That's a reasonable communication that maybe you should stop stalking that person. And the entity, like I'm documenting, stalking by planes flying over my hotel room under a fake sun that is 3 hours later over me at my hotel room, is engaging what is communicating an unlawful threat as a public entity. And simultaneously presenting evidence against the people of the state who sat in courts, in undisclosed court hearings regarding undisclosed property that belongs to me, and making what are false and defamatory and malicious statements about my character, while they conspired with this government that is providing evidence against them as to why, what was their motive, money, property that they're not getting, and they're going to prison instead. All right, the entity is gang stalking as a public entity. That is the people of the state. That is the establishment itself, Mobile, 2315 South Euclid Avenue, and the employees at Mobile who are gang stalking as the people of the state and with the people of the state. And they're not strangers either. Their knowledge of who I am and their engagement, their behavioral pattern in that specific environment, which is proof of their knowledge of who I am, is what is serving for what is the evidence of intent to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring with a government on behalf of the government. That's vicarious state action. The entity is doing this while I am showing you what is the evidence of the fake sun that literally moves from the staircase where my hotel room is located to as I walk across the parking lot to document gang stalking. And the following people of the state are engaged in what is an unlawful threat to my life and safety with the intent to obstruct justice while the city of Ontario flies over my hotel room by commercial planes, as I just documented at 11:01 a.m. License 4XFT473. That's a blue Toyota Celica, I believe. Yeah. And license plate 33494G1. This is a demon, a Latino male that's stalking in the path with lights aimed toward my room. They're monitoring me inside of my room. The entity is maintaining ongoing amplified audible activity. As I open my room, a demon that's engaging what is surveillance, just like they do in vehicles in order to cross path. This demon with tattoos on his back, you'll see in the images, as I open my front door, he's already there in order to engage in stalking. He's walking an engineered light that I also took a picture of on the wall on the outside of the hotel. This is a demon. This is a stalker who's also aware of the status of my vagina while engaging in surveillance as an entire public entity while I remain inside of this hotel room. And the proof of that is also the fake sun that's still at one address, which is a supernatural occurrence. So is the impossible light activity that this demon with no shirt on and tattoos on his back is walking in with the criminal purpose of monitoring. This is how surveillance is executed as a demon-possessed population. It is shared by all the demons who are filling relevant positioning inside of the hotel rooms, including the demons that are in relevant position at Mobile at 2315 South Euclid Avenue. So this is a third party that is in a vehicle monitoring while the demon with no shirt on walks by my room. They're monitoring together. They're gang stalking together. They're sharing in the elements of monitoring, surrounding me with presence, surrounding me with light activity, while the demons are surrounding me with this ongoing amplified audible activity while I remain inside of my room. And it does occur in the way in which I documented on video, plane activity. But it's an obvious engagement of targeting because there are no airport departures that includes planes taking off headed toward any destination by flying over my hotel room in the direction south, north, east, or west. The entity is engaging in what is obvious stalking while maintaining plane activity, which is in conformity to the pattern of conduct, okay? They are gang stalking even when I'm at the Ontario International Airport and you see a plane take off from the airport. The fake sun is over me. The Ontario International Airport is engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. I've shown you them engaged in targeting me and stalking me in commercial planes. That is unprecedented acts of terrorism that the United States government is practicing throughout this country. It's relevant to psychological torture. It's relevant to what is malice, seeking to criminally defame an American citizen when you are exhibiting severe mental illness by stalking in such an unprecedented manner, which I have proven is the case. Okay, the entity intends to criminally defame with that. Ironically, what's going to happen and what the evidence proves and what justice requires that the entity, the gang stalking entity, is going to be diagnosed with their own criminal conduct. So the entity is engaging in this, and these third parties are acting in sync. The demon's walking by my room as I open my door. He's monitoring with the demon in perfect alignment with my door at the mobile gas station. The demons are targeting together while the fake sun is over the same property. 3 hours later, there is no sun that's ever in Florida while the entity engages in this obvious exposure of surveillance, targeting through an environment that is entirely supernatural. The sun is targeting me while it doesn't go anywhere, okay? And so is everybody else who you know are demons. And you also know their criminal conduct. It's federal group stalking monitoring, i.e. gang stalking. And it is exposing simultaneously the police, the fire department, the whatever agency is responsible for ambulatory services in that city. You are aware of what the sheriff's department is engaging in. You are aware of what the courts in that city are engaging in. You are aware of any relevant airports, all of the businesses in that city, all of the households, all the residences, the entire population. You're aware of what they are practicing while the entity is engaging in the P.O.C. that I've exposed. So this is relevant to not only my documenting, they're all sharing what is criminal obstruction while the city of Ontario. So be reminded, the entity is engaged in ongoing obstruction while I'm documenting these sex offenders. License 33494G1. This is a Latino male. And license plate. A bunch of males are lined up inside of the mobile gas station. License 09135J2. Gang stalking in position at gas pump number 1 at mobile gas. License plate 7N54622. License, I documented this earlier, license 3UUU144. License 5HYA280. License 18402K1, license 93723J2, and you will see the demons that are engaged in relevant positioning inside of the mobile. They're monitoring me while they're in line inside of the mobile building, the mobile gas station market. While they're purchasing, this is the elements of monitoring. They're monitoring simultaneously, and this is exposing their demonic activity, which is designed to psychologically torture an American citizen that is suffering in silence in inexplicable manners that they cannot even define. They don't know where the sound is coming from. They don't know how the walls and the floors are shaking around them because there's no earthquake. They're looking at the news. There's no reported earthquakes on the news. They don't understand how when they're on the third floor inside of an apartment building, how something under their feet is causing shaking. And their neighbors are always accusing them of being mentally ill when they merely ask them, are they doing something to my ceiling or to their ceiling? They don't understand what's going on when the demon-possessed are gang stalking like mobile gases through the customers who are simultaneously making purchases. This is the business built into that pattern of conduct. The city of Ontario is gang stalking with mobile gas at 11:11 a.m. right now, while the people of the state whose license plate I documented are sharing in criminal obstruction of justice, and this is sharing their mental illness. And I want to be clear, gang stalking immigrants shall be deported, and this is why. Terrorism is not welcome in this country, and gang stalking terrorists that call themselves mayors, gang stalking terrorists that call themselves police officers and
and police chiefs, and they call themselves managers at the nearby hotel where they're engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring, they're going to be dealt with under what is the federal law to deal with domestic terrorism. And that's the significance of the fake sun being over the same venue 4 hours later from where I captured it this morning, and the entity flying over my hotel room while I'm documenting license plate 18402K1 because they share in criminal obstruction of justice. And they are all, of all communities, all races, providing evidence against TRACEE Banks, who's going to federal prison, providing evidence against Eric Corey Spencer, who's going to federal prison. SCHNITA McClain, KARI HEABERLIN, engaging in any sort of defamation, bearing false witness in court, while they are engaged in the pattern of conduct, and the entity gang stalking by bearing false witness in a court that's gang stalking by virtue of targeting regarding property never disclosed to me, never disclosed court hearings about this property that was never told to me, while the entity uses criminally procured devices like a secret conservatorship, fraudulent marriages, while the entity is simultaneously, such as TRACEE Banks, claiming that I'm dead, having fake death certificates, concealing my identity, stealing my identity, engaging in criminal conduct under my name, while simultaneously gang stalking the people of the state, including the city of Ontario, that is targeting by gang stalking using commercial planes, is evidence against the entity who is going to federal prison. It includes those aforesaid, including Jason Isaac Fields, TRACEE Banks' sex partner, somebody who would claim he was tricked in domestic terrorism. He's going to federal prison. This is a psychopath, and that's a delusional one who thinks that there is some sort of defense in stating that there's a spell cast over you, and that's why he believed the lies that, and this is only lies that he claims he was told, with regard to why you are going to be held responsible for the acts of volition that you engaged in targeting an American citizen and abusing your government position in doing so, just like every other gang stalking police officer, every other gang stalking sheriff's deputy, every other gang stalking firefighter, every other demon-possessed gang stalker. Jason Isaac Fields is not different. He certainly isn't anything extraordinary. He's a psychopath, and he's a demon-possessed gang stalker who had sex with this 60-some-odd-year-old woman because he thought that that was where the jackpot was, in that cobweb-filled genitalia. This is the entity that engages in what is sexual violence also with regard to that P.O.C. He's conspired with TRACEE Banks. He's conspired with the entity to place cameras on me where I'm being gang stalked like this, flying over my hotel room, gang stalking me inside of my hotel room. They also engage in what is placing cameras in order to watch me undress and place it on the internet and profit from that. This same entity that's engaging in this pattern of conduct, which is not coincidentally the pattern of conduct that the Los Angeles Police Department is sharing in. Gang stalking me at nightfall inside of my hotel, inside of my apartment at Alvarado Gardens, gang stalking me while the fake sun remains. And there is no sun that is at any point of the day at Alvarado Gardens over the top of my head, over my office, over the top of my head at my front door, over the top of my head while I'm inside of my bedroom, documenting the fake sun that's setting in the evening and rising in the morning, where it's remaining over Economy Inn, where I'm at right now, where the Ontario International Airport is gang stalking by definition of under what is a fake sun, a supernatural phenomenon exposing surveillance by a whole public entity that is acting with the people of the state. And they are sharing in that criminal act of obstruction of justice, meaning psychological torture persists, ongoing harassment and domestic terrorism persists as you expose the people of the state that include license 93723J2. And while the entity is engaging in the pattern of conduct at Economy Inn, this is the entity that's engaging in what is gang stalking by trying to steal my property, my real property, personal property, intellectual property, by maintaining secret court hearings that nobody told me about while they were gang stalking me. Okay, while I was sitting around kidnapped in these facilities by these gang stalkers that are feigning being police departments. They're engaged in domestic terrorism, and they engaged in kidnapping, and the entity was maintaining undisclosed court hearings, defaming my character, and relying on kidnappings while gang stalking to defame my character, making up information in order that actually regarding conduct that the entity engages in. They're the ones that have sex on the internet. They're the ones that engage in
prostitution. They're the ones that engage in sexually violating children. They're the ones that have engaged in what are crimes of fraud and stealing the identity of others. They're the ones that have engaged in that. And the entity, while I'm in situations such as being kidnapped, which is a matter of documentation I've published on the internet, everywhere that I've been where the entity has been engaged in kidnapping me, where I've been subject to the pattern of conduct of gang stalking, precipitated into kidnapping, while the entity is engaging in what is maintaining the pattern of conduct in corrupt courts that are targeting and relying on this criminal system to accomplish theft of my property. Okay, this is the bigger picture. While the city of Ontario is repeatedly flying over my hotel room, just like you saw 3 hours later in that specific environment where the sun would never be present at the same address. And that's also how you know that those are psychopaths that are to be relieved from having any access to things such as a license to fly planes and helicopters when they're using it for domestic terrorism, gang stalking, which is not helping the defendants, the people of the state who I'm documenting. And it includes license 93723J2, gang stalking, which is shared by Mobile Gas at 2315 South Euclid Avenue. This is relevant for civil and criminal damages. And none of this is shared with what is the sun, how is the sun in a natural environment, ever over the logo of Starbucks at 507 North Euclid Avenue. Because at 11 a.m., I am documenting at or around the same time the entity maintaining the sun over the top of my head. In fact, at 11:54, the Ontario Police Department is gang stalking by keeping their backs to me while the fake sun is over my head at 507 North Euclid Avenue. You know where the fake sun is going to be at 11:54 a.m. today? It's going to be right here at this hotel, in direct contravention of nature, common sense, logic, science, nature, but it is in conformity to the documented pattern of conduct, though, where the Ontario International Airport is deviating from anything remotely close to even having anything to do with taking off from the airport or landing at an airport to fly south over my hotel room and continue to fly what is east toward the sky space, because the entity is just engaged in gang stalking and doing so while I document, which is the very foolish conduct of a special needs population that has no other remedy for being exposed as gang stalking other than to continue engaging in that pattern of conduct. Okay, so this is, again, a straightforward prosecution. And this is, again, of course, it is not only immigrants that are of the Latino race. There are gang stalking immigrants that are of all races in this country. Now, all I'm stating is that with regard to domestic terrorists, anyone, including those that look like me, anybody that's not a natural born citizen, and that's my point. Anybody gang stalking, anybody that I'm documenting, anybody within the city of Ontario, that's a gang stalking immigrant, because the entire city of Ontario is engaged in the pattern of conduct. The state of California is engaged in the pattern of conduct. And the current deportations that are underway is a means of exacting what is justice. Gang stalking immigrants are not welcome in this country. And this is something that the entity was warned about a long time ago, and you are going to be deported. The entity is engaged in this pattern of conduct in all gang stalking immigrants, including any of those that are monitoring me while I walk inside of the mobile, and you're looking at relevant positioning, ongoing presence in the path while the demons are surrounding, and relevant position while I am inside of my hotel room, and the entity is keeping a fake sun over me, engineer light around me, while a bunch of psychopaths are pacing all around me. And they together are also worshiping my vagina that they're also keeping under surveillance inside of this hotel room, inside of this bathroom. Okay, that's the futility, that's the foolishness, that's the outward demonstration of mental illness by demons that stalk in commercial planes, which is the most obvious and incriminating manner, exposing everybody, including the demons that engaged in defaming my character inside of courts, where they are seeking and conspiring to steal property that they will never put their paws on, and anything that they already stole, including gang stalking judges. They're going to prison. It's as simple as that. All right. So I want to make sure I document the rest of these license plates because you will see these images uploaded to the Google Drive. And this is the entity gang stalking. And the proof of that is also the fake sun that moves over me as I walk next door to 2315 South Euclid Avenue. And the entity is engaging in the same thing that you see at 8 o'clock in the morning, 8:04 a.m. specifically. The Ontario International Airport, every airline. And they are engaging what is flying over my hotel room. That's exactly what's happening at 11:01 a.m., where I am documenting the people of the state by license plate. And they are gang stalking the business mobile. The corporation itself is gang stalking me, and so is its employees, and so is every other patron that are engaging in what is surveillance under the guise of what is patronage at a facilitating venue. And you will be prosecuted where you live, you will be prosecuted where you work, you will be prosecuted where you shop, you will be prosecuted where you visit with regard to the entity's engagement in what is public corruption, federal group stalking and monitoring, which is committed as a government in reliance on the people of the state who are supposed to be the mask. And you're seeing that it's an unpersuasive mask, it's a hideous mask, it's a mask of sexual perversion, it's a mask of mental illness, it's a mask of what is exceedingly demented behavioral patterns shared by a population of those that don't want to be known, but that's already, again, that boat has sailed. This is the work of the demon possessed. These are all demons that are stalking. So you are understanding demon possession is not limited to the name of a business. It's not limited to a race. It's not limited to a zip code. It's not limited to a position. You're looking at the demon possessed that are practicing a fully exposed system. And I'm going to prosecute under laws that exist in a so-called civilized society. That's what you're witnessing. All right. And it is putting the people of the state whose name I know, all the fake friends and family members that conspired against me by defaming my character. You're going to federal prison while you're witnessing me document the people of the state, document the state of California at economy, and you're going to federal prison. And this is Providence while I'm at a distance from you, and I don't have to see you. I don't have to be a part of those criminal acts inside of the court where you were defaming my character. You're witnessing me prosecute you at a distance in the same way you were secretly targeting me behind my back about property that you were never putting your hands on, and you're going to federal prison while you're witnessing me surround you with the evidence of your criminal conduct as you act as an entity while these demons, this special needs population, provides ongoing evidence against you about what your purpose was defaming my character in corrupt courts that have no jurisdiction over my person or property. It's 11:23 a.m. It's Saturday, July 19, 2025. This is the ongoing pattern of... All right, I want to document the entity that is engaged in federal stalking in real time, the documentation that I'm capturing of the people of the state stalking at the mobile gas. And so I go through the process of publishing it onto the internet, and the entity is then gang stalking in order to monitor, that is, keep under surveillance the evidence as it's being published online. So you have a line of demons that are pacing past my room up and down the stairs. They are pacing repeatedly, so that's why I just go on ahead and open the door. They're crossing path, one demon after another. These are demon-possessed people that are engaged in criminal conduct that they're going to be prosecuted for under the laws, but you need to understand their condition is that which is, one, first of all, their status is third parties. They are acting with the city of Ontario, which is the state of California, who also engaged in gang stalking, and confirming it for you by flying over my head under the fake sun. That is, again, 8, 9, 10, 4 hours later, over me at the same address, same parking lot, same location, in conformity to the pattern of conduct, out of conformity with nature, common sense, science. And this is, again, the ongoing conclusive hard evidence that is prosecuting the gang stalkers that thought that they were going to engage in this psychopathic pattern of conduct and falsely depict my character in doing so. That's why, again, TRACEE Banks, Jason Fields, Eric Spencer, SCHNITA McLean, everybody else that is, again, the people of the state that the government relies on to sit in a court and bear false witness, perjure themselves in order to steal property, which the government has a stake in as well. This is what the government is doing while it's keeping American citizens under surveillance through demonic means of targeting, such as impossible light that's plastered all over the outside of the hotel where these demons in a line are going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And they're doing so while the entity is maintaining methods of amplified, that's a heightened volume of activity, which would ordinarily be nothing that's going to disturb your hotel stay, nothing that's certainly going to cause any earthquakes. The entity, any and everything that the demons are doing is serving for activity creation under a 4-hour enduring fake sun and in light manifesting in the shade while they are all stalking one person. That one person is also under surveillance via communication devices and on the internet, which is the criminal conduct that the city of Ontario provides, confirming the prosecution of the people of the state. And the people of the state are specifically pacing, and you will see the third-party license plates that I am documenting. Again, it is license plate. Let me go ahead and record them on, it's recorded in the video, but I want to include it in this podcast. 9MFD524, again, like you heard. These are the third parties that are pacing incessantly. This is mental illness exhibited, this pacing behavior, because that's what they're doing. They're doing it in the engineered light that's on the wall, which I captured on video to prove that for you. The entity that's engaged in what is that which is subject to or actually concealing closeted mental illness, very demented behavior designed to target someone else, designed to psychologically harm another person were they to become aware of it. The entity is doing so pursuant to sexual violence that they also share in. This is the exact same conduct that they're doing when my panties are down and my vagina is exposed, and all these psychopaths who are sexually perverted, demon-possessed people monitoring me, monitoring my vagina, and they get into this psychopathic frenzy as well, doing so with the plane activity, doing so with the amplified traffic activity, doing so with all manner of what is causing earthquakes and vibrations because I'm naked. Okay, that's a sex offender. That is the gang stalker, Alan D. Wapner, who's being removed from office while the Ontario International Airport is conclusively engaged in terrorism and targeting, flying over my head under the 4-hour enduring fake sun, as I'm documenting. As you can see the video evidence of the fake sun rising, like you witnessed this morning. You witnessed that this morning at what is 7... Let me see, that was at 7:16 a.m. It is 8, 9, 10, 11, over 4.5 hours later, and the fake sun is over me at the same address. But then you have Florida that's 3 hours ahead of us, and that there is no point at which the entity would, in a natural environment, be capable of having the sun shining over anybody in Miami, Florida, where the demons who are gang stalking are proven to be engaged in what is a satanic means of targeting an American citizen and exhibiting mental illness that is no longer closeted, while the people of the state are pacing outside of my hotel room in engineered light pursuant to monitoring on communication devices, while they are also maniacal psychopaths, their mental illness and their criminal activity exposed, while they are also keeping the evidence about their criminal monitoring conduct that is shared with the government, who flew over my head in a commercial plane, under surveillance, okay? And that's what's relevant. I'm capturing the demons that are pacing up and down the stairs, and I'm showing you the impossible light that they're pacing in. And then I show you the fake sun that's over them while they walk down the staircase, and that's at 11:44 a.m. This is the P.O.C. And then you're looking at the vehicles. These are demons that are in the parking lot. They're also stalking in the path. License 8VYW021. And the other third party, license 8ADL482. They are inside of the venue, going into hotel rooms, gang stalking as patrons. This is what the entity that's engaged in the system of public corruption that I'm exposing practice. The entity is gang stalking through the people of the state. And so everywhere that they live, they work, they travel, they remain around the targeted individual in that specific environment, which is literally the hardcore proof of surveillance itself, because it's so ridiculous what the mentally ill population engages in, gang stalking somebody else. And this absurd pattern of conduct is what they use to falsely depict the character of another person that they are stalking. That is what is going to put a lot of people in mental asylums and in federal prison, including demons stalking in commercial planes and stalking in helicopters, using an entire department and a police department to engage in surveilling one person, and then exercising authority that they don't have. They are maliciously presenting themselves as legitimate law enforcement while they're gang stalking in that same exact environment, pursuant to the same obsessive stalking with the people of the state who they engage in what is criminal summoning, for example, pulling over these demons by maintaining what is a traffic stop. They're gang stalking together, and this is breaking down their whole unintelligent system. And this is also speaking to what is the implosion of that system, because the people of the state and the state that acts directly in such means, they're both going to federal prison. Okay, so, and that's what I mean with regard to the entity that's gang stalking at the Ovid Family Community Library at 1:07 p.m. The fake sun is remaining over at 2301 South Euclid Avenue. So the band of demons that you saw gang stalking in late June at 1:07 p.m. at the Ovid Family Community Library, while the fake sun remained over me at Starbucks at 507 North Euclid Avenue, and did so following me, remaining over my head. That means as I leave Starbucks, it stayed there from sunrise until the moment that I left, and then the fake sun moved, just like you see. It remains over the venue of Economy Inn, and it's at the over the top of my head, facing the building. And as I walk over to Mobile, that fake sun moves as I move to Mobile, and then it remains over me as I walk back to the hotel room. That's not the sun, and it's also not the shared experience of the demons that are gang stalking on the 60 freeway, the demons that are gang stalking at Mobile, going to and leaving the venue, the demons that are gang stalking at the venue of Economy Inn. You see them driving off, and that fake sun remains over me. That's understanding the evidence of demons who are targeting. They're stalking. They are gang stalking. And so are the demons using planes and helicopters. It does not get it. It's a neon blinking sign for stalking by the government, while the entity provides this level of evidence against itself and every gang stalker that I'm documenting. And so this is, I want to be clear, the demons that I'm documenting, they're engaging in what is obstruction of justice, just like I documented the demons that are at the mobile. What does the entity do at 11:01 a.m.? Flies over my hotel room while I'm documenting the gang stalkers. This is obstruction of justice, which is built into the prosecution of the people of the state. Okay, license 9MFD524 is engaged in obstruction of justice while the Ontario International Airport flies over my head, which I capture in video, as you heard it, as I'm documenting the people of the state. This is shared with the third parties, who I'm also documenting, license 8ADL482 and a license 8VYO, excuse me, let me get that license plate. It is 8VYW021. These are the demons that I'm capturing. They're engaged in activity creation in alignment to my room under the fake sun. They're targeting me as proven through the fake sun that's over my head. This is why demons who are stalking you, they'll keep their back to you. They don't have to look at you or talk to you. This is the malice of the pattern of conduct, the purpose of gang stalking. Through a multiplicity of faces, a population that has no, ostensibly no relation to the target individual. They're all related to the target individual under the fake sun. And they are exposing their mental illness, which is no longer a secret, no longer closeted, while they engage in such maniacal means of psychologically harming another person, of stalking another person, of criminally targeting, monitoring another person. While you're in the parking lot, nothing that you're doing is going to be heard inside of the bathroom, for example, while they amplify the sound of you closing your trunk, or they amplify the sound of the demon that you're targeting me with while they're walking by my hotel room, while they're stalking with impossible light and their shadow is moving all across the building in light that's manifesting in the shade. That's psychological torture, and psychopaths that are exhibiting their mental illness in order that it could be diagnosed and treated with regard to their behavioral issues that are harmful to other people, a threat to the public. That's going to be a matter of what is a diagnosis and of criminal prosecution. The entity shares in that while the Ontario International Airport then flies over my head, which is relevant to the obstruction of justice aspect to their criminal activity. And these two males and the female, at 11:43 a.m. they're pacing, and they are engaging in this repeatedly. I don't open the door when they first do it. They're pacing back and forth and back and forth and back and forth because they're monitoring what's going on my device, and they're doing so in an unintelligent manner. But the demons thought that they were sneaky. Now they know that they're not sneaky, and they know that they're stupid and foolish and exposed, and they're still doing it. That's relevant to their mental illness as well. That's an obsessed stalker that goes to any means and is relentless. That's an unlawful threat while the government is the stalker. Okay? Understand how that's legally analyzed as well. They're pacing in engineered light, which is what I capture on video and in images, and the entity is doing so, providing this level of obvious evidence. Oh, well, fine. Since you're documenting the people of the state, I'm going to go ahead and fly over your head and gang stalk you myself as the state acting directly, which is, again, exhibiting severe mental illness, a stalker that is relentless, a stalker that is disregarding the consequences. Public officials are being removed from office. There are a lot of officials that are going to prison. Okay, gang stalking police officers are going to prison, while the entity is engaging in the same exact P.O.C. that I'm documenting. When I'm at another location and the same exact pattern of conduct is underway, you're going to prison while you're wearing a police uniform. You're going to federal prison. The entity, and that's just an example, you're going to federal prison while you're gang stalking with those demons wearing police uniforms, i.e. Starbucks employees, Ocean, Brian, Elena, Patty, that engaged in kidnapping with the intent to obstruct justice. That is, they are engaged in gang stalking me, and the intent to obstruct justice includes kidnapping me because I'm asking questions. Why are you expelling me from this venue, which you're not free to do? It's relevant to harassment, and it's not private property. The entity is engaged in surveillance on the property. The entity is engaged in surveilling the evidence accumulated against itself, and then is engaged in what is criminal summoning. And you're psychopaths. The police have been monitoring the whole time, and you're acting like you called them and told them about me, and that's why they're present. Those psychopaths are going to federal prison. It's the malicious iteration of the pattern of conduct, and you're going to federal prison for it. And it's what Starbucks has repeated over and over and over again. And the absence of the sun over Starbucks, which is proven through the fake sun being over me at Economy Inn, is putting the same in federal prison. Okay? The entity is engaging in this as an entity, including while their psychopathic, ongoing, unhinged state It's proven while they're gang stalking, while they're driving off the property, with the city of Ontario flying over my head in commercial planes, and doing this while they were monitoring the evidence of what I documented moments earlier at the mobile gas station. That's the stalker that's monitoring, keeping under surveillance the evidence that's going to be submitted against it in court. And then as you document them, monitoring the evidence that's going to be submitted against them in court, it's the provision of more evidence, obviously, but it's also exposing what is outright lawlessness and obsession, demented and delusional behaviors. This is exposing the mentally ill, the special needs status of those that are stalking an impossible light, stalking as a population, checking out hotel rooms to engage in surveillance, maintaining an establishment for purposes of targeting an American citizen, because that's what's proven when the fake sun remains over me at your establishment. These are nothing other than sleepers. They are the people of the state are present for the gang stalking purposes of the government, any and everywhere at all times. Period. The entities engaging in that, and that's proven by evidence. It's not just period because I said so. It's proven by the evidence. The fake sun follows where I am. So the fake sun that's covered up at 3 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, by the way, is already documented before 2025. But these are the delusional psychopaths that have a fake sun over at 7:16 in the morning, or present at after 7 p.m. in the evening, over my head at 12:52 in the middle of the afternoon, present at 1:44 in the middle of the afternoon, and covering it up at 3 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, as though that is showing nothing other than the mental illness of the demons who are already surrounded with evidence. And it is putting those that are seeking and failing sorely at trying to criminally defame a federal prosecutor, because that's what I am, a whistleblower that's proven targeting by the government, and even defined and created ways for you to understand, putting it, in other words, in a palatable manner so you can understand how the government, with the people of the state, including those who you know by name, who you may be related to, who you may have had any matter of a relationship with, while they're targeting you, that entity that sought to criminally defame, but because they worship money and they thought they were going to steal my property, not only are they not stealing it, they're going to prison. This is the system that they're participating in when they're sitting in courts, perjuring themselves, lying about things that I never did, lying about my character in ways that I've never behaved, and doing so because they're envious and they all want to be me and they wish that was all their property that they're trying to steal from me. They're going to federal prison. While they're psychopathic co-defendants that share the same mental illness, engage in the pattern of conduct. License 8ADL 482. That's a female that's gang stalking another woman. That's a psychopath that's gang stalking with the sex offending co-defendant 8VYW021. Gang stalking with the city of Ontario using commercial planes flying over my head in the parking lot. With the demons, the band of demons that are pacing repeatedly outside of the hotel room in engineered light under the fake sun. Monitoring evidence in violation of Title 18, Section 22618, subsections 1 and 2. License 9MFD 524. And the entities engaging in the same pattern of conduct, and so on and so forth, and around they go with regard to the demons engaged in a cycle. And that cycle is referred to as the P.O.C. It is federal group stalking and monitoring, referred to in the vernacular as gang stalking. And you're going to federal prison for gang stalking with this level of impunity and malice in concert with the government that engages in a pattern of kidnapping. Okay, this is exposing mental illness. It's also exposing public corruption. The entity that is gang stalking is a mentally ill population. Okay, they're demon possessed as well. This is demonic activity. It's 12:11 p.m. where the entity's keeping the fake sun, and you can hear my documentation. The entity is surrounded with a body of evidence that's already occurring at Starbucks at 507 North Euclid Avenue, where the entity has no basis at all with regard to explaining what I documented. How is the sun remaining over your venue for the duration of the day? And it's directly relevant to the way in which this entity is going to be prosecuted. It's not going to be disregarded or ignored at all. And it's revealing what is unprecedented conduct, in addition to everything that they're engaging in as a corrupt society, engaging in what is targeting an American citizen. And it is pointing directly to demons like TRACEE Banks, Jason Isaac Fields, Eric Corey Spencer, SCHNITA McClain, KARI HEABERLIN, ARIANA LOPEZ, et cetera, those that are claiming to have some sort of relationship with me at one point in time, and that they sat in courts defaming my character because they thought that gang stalking me and combined with what is witchcraft was going to be the perfect combination to drive me to the point of insanity, while they engage in voyeurism, necessarily targeting by capturing what was supposed to be an anticipated crash out. They're necessarily targeting by capturing that crash out on camera in order to submit it in a corrupt court that's targeting in order to steal my property. This is what they planned. That was their plan. We're going to target, we're going to claim that she's crazy. We're going to target her without admitting that they're targeting. But this is the plan. They're targeting, they're going to simultaneously target in a court about property that the entity never told me about. They're engaged in all manner of spiritual attacks. These are demons that have no authority over Christ Jesus. They are all inferior in the spirit, and they're also inferior while I've surrounded them and bullied them with evidence. And all they are doing is prosecuting themselves while they're still gang stalking. Okay? They're still doing it, which is going to serve purposes of diagnosis and prosecution. That is convictions for physical crimes, not just merely demons that are obsessing in the spirit. For physical crimes in the 3D, they're being prosecuted for it. So the entity is engaging, and this was their plan. A bunch of demons, a bunch of homosexual men that are spiritually attacking me. Some sort of society whose name I don't need to know. They're irrelevant. They're being exposed. This is a system that a government practices. This is the so-called secret society. They're engaged in gang stalking in California. And in the United States, the American government is targeting American citizens. Surveillance is underway. I don't need to know the names of these homosexual men, these demons that are engaged in gang stalking. Okay, and their homosexuality, by the way, is relevant to their spiritual prowess, or so they thought, because their homosexuality and their engaged in what is, I want to be clear, your sexual activity is relevant to spiritual. This is why you should be careful with who you lie down with. This is why scripture says, Christ Jesus has said that it is fornication to have sex outside of marriage. And sex outside of your marriage is adultery. And it is spiritually significant, those who you fuse your genitalia with. This is what Satan knows, and this is what the demon-possessed thought was going to give them some sort of authority or leg up over me, which does not work with those who are in Christ Jesus, sealed by the Holy Spirit. Their homosexuality gives them no sort of spiritual prowess over me. What I do is I can literally discern the demons who are spiritually attacking. And it includes Jason Isaac Fields. It includes Tracy Banks, who's engaged in she's a Jezebel spirit. She's in the physical, she's a gang stalking mother. That's an oxymoron. She's going to federal prison, just like the oxymoron of gang stalking mayors removed from office. Gang stalking mayors that threaten the life of an American citizen go to federal prison as well, by the way. But gang stalking police officers, they go to federal prison. All these oxymorons are going to be dealt with under the law, all right, in the physical realm. But these are demons that are spiritually attacking. And gang stalking is a massive spiritual attack. But I've proven it through what is tangible evidence so that you could see the demon-possessed who are targeting an American citizen in a way that can be proven and prosecuted, because it's not impervious to a prosecution in a federal tribunal. But I want to be clear, this group of non-elite homosexual men who are a bunch of fake Christians that are summoning demonic spirits that are inferior to Christ Jesus, they're engaged in what is a system that works against the ordinary target individual, and it doesn't work against the person that has been called to call these demons out, that has been called to prosecute them also, in order to also, I want to be clear, create what is a foundation, precedent, if you will, in order to prosecute any other corrupt government that's engaging in surveillance like the state of California is. And this is where their homosexuality falls short, where they're not garnering any sort of spiritual authority by having sex with men, by having sex with demon-possessed Jezebel spirits like Tracy Banks, by engaging in what is molesting and sexually violating children, which is also what the demon-possessed practice when they traffic children, molest children, have sex with children. This is what the demon-possessed Satan makes sex offenders out of his followers. In case this is the reality. This is where the demon-possessed are engaged in what obsessing over my vagina. This is a ritualistic iteration of the pattern of conduct, their sexual violence. And that's why they're engaged in a sexually violent pattern of conduct, including bathroom monitoring. The entity is engaging in this P.O.C, and this is relevant to what is prosecuting. So I just want to be clear. Let's take a step back outside of what is the demonic pattern of conduct, these demons that are engaged in all this spiritual warfare. It's occurring in the physical, and it is referred to as the pattern of conduct that I'm going to prosecute the demon-possessed that have positions in government, have positions in authority, and are engaged in corrupt practices and ways of targeting those who are in their life, like Tracy Banks and Eric Spencer and Jason Isaac Fields have committed. The entities, these are demons, okay? okay? And so they're engaged in the pattern of conduct with the demons who are nameless. All of these demons who are gang stalking at the hotel, gang stalking in traffic, gang stalking when I'm on the Omnitrans bus, gang stalking when I am at the library, gang stalking when I'm walking down the street, which you know through the evidence of impossible light activity, a fake sun over my head, engineer light, impossible light activity at nightfall when they're engaged in the same P.O.C. It is shared with those whose name I do know, and they're going straight to federal prison because they sat in courts defaming my character, and they thought that they had spiritual prowess, meaning authority, and that they would be able to overwhelm me so much that I would essentially have a breakdown, which would be falsely depicted as mental illness. And that's what I'm stating. First of all, they didn't get that. And what they got was a body of evidence proving that the government is targeting American citizens, and I'm going to use it to enforce my rights. And it's also advocating on behalf of the ordinary targeted individual who is not mentally ill when they engage in any sort of reaction as a fragile human being that was never designed to be subject to the psychologically torturous conduct of like the city of Ontario is engaging in. Like your family that's gang stalking you engages in. Like your spouse or your friends that are gang stalking you engage in. Like the civilian population that surrounds you while they're gang stalking you, like what they engage in that environment. That's not mental illness. That's a human being reacting. And the entity that engages in this unconstitutionally vague description, abusing the laws as they exist, and that's not a coincidence, because this is happening throughout the country. And the demons, I want to be clear, are targeting American citizens in a demonic environment that you're ignorant about. And this is also not some unsupported conspiracy theory. Everything that I'm stating and describing with words that are conveying ideas and thoughts that you are able to understand, whether regardless of whether you're ignorant about spirituality and the demon possessed, which is also relevant to dark spirituality, those who are apart from Christ, those who are wandering in spiritual darkness and attacking others based on their service to Satan, which I am going to prosecute them under the laws as they exist, because they're going to be diagnosed and prosecuted. The entity that takes that for a joke, these same non-elite homosexuals that are gang stalking, calling themselves some secret society, it's not a secret anymore. And this is criminal conduct by the government. This so-called homosexual clan of this non-elite secret society, they work with the corrupt government, the government that they think is covering them. I'm prosecuting the government. Gang stalking police officers are going to federal prison. These homosexuals that call themselves some secret society, they don't have any cover. The gang stalking police are going to federal prison as well. They will be disbanded. They will be exposed as domestic terrorists. They will not be confused with legitimate law enforcement agencies. This is why they call themselves elite, because they got a bunch of demons that are gang stalking as corrupt law enforcement officials. That's what the Ontario Police Department is. That's what the Los Angeles Police Department are. They're literally on the payroll. They share in sex rituals together. They engage in what is exchanging demonic spirits. There's nothing elite about that. They're a bunch of pedophiles. They're a bunch of stalkers. They're sex offenders. They are psychopaths. They are actually clinically mentally ill. And they are calling themselves elite. They are calling themselves a secret society because, enter in Erica Spencer, nobody's ever exposed them before. Their spell work, their voodoo, their black magic, their witchcraft doesn't work on me. And not only does it not work on me, I am exposing their tactics. You need to know you're not only being targeted in the physical realm, which I've shown you within the P.O.C, you're being targeted in the spiritual realm. You're being spiritually attacked. And this is, again, the entity that their plan was. Now, understanding this is prefacing, this is what they thought their genius plan. This is what this Jezebel spirit, TRACEE Banks, this is what she thought her plan was. Were to target me and not admit to targeting me, because you're not supposed to know about gang stalking by the government. So, okay, you're not supposed to know about that. But this is their so-called genius plan. Target me. You have imbeciles like the demons of the Ontario International Airport proving that they're targeting me. But this is what their plan was. You're targeting me, and then you're going to sit back, engage in voyeurism, and catch my mental breakdown on camera, and then submit that in court in order to support all of their libelous, defamatory, calumny that's underway inside of these corrupt courts in order to support what is a secret conservatorship about property that was never disclosed to me. And this is going to support what is a theft by public corruption, by government misconduct. And it's theft committed by the public entity itself that's relying on the people of the state to share in that, okay? They have to have the people of the state in that court to bear false witness. They have to have the people of the state to engage in criminal summoning to commit kidnapping. They have to have the people of the state at this facilitating venue to gang stalk me. And they thought in combination with witchcraft, Okay, and again, demons engaging what is homosexuality, child molestation, child trafficking. This is everything that they're doing with regard to trying to summon up demonic spirits that they think is going to be, and it's not. You're just going to be prosecuted as sex offenders. You're going to be prosecuted as child traffickers. You're going to be prosecuted as kidnappers, kidnapping children, trafficking them, selling them for sex, putting them on the internet. This is what the demon possessed engage in, and they are thinking that they're exchanging spiritual power to combat me with. And I'm not fighting my own battles. This is Christ Jesus, who has already overcome what he knew at the outset these demons were going to wage against me. I'm minding my business, going to college, going to law school, going about my career, and then I find out that I'm being harassed from job to job, and finding out that it's even bigger than just being harassed when I go into property management. The entity, like I'm proving at LAPD, there's a lot more history behind that, but to put it succinctly right now, I'm proving what is targeting in the workplace, which is why LAPD is gang stalking me under the fake sun, which is present from sunrise until sunset. All right, this is what these demons thought, because they're relying on Satan's power. Satan is, first of all, Satan already knows that they were going to be unsuccessful. Satan is laughing at these demons who he is using, because they're going to serve the consequences. You know what Satan is going to do? He's going to go on to the next group of people that he can deceive, as many as he can trick into eternity, where you will lose your everlasting soul and burn in eternal damnation. You're not going to reincarnate as a caterpillar that turns into a butterfly. You're not reincarnating as some rich person's child. Okay, the truth of the reality of Christ Jesus and who he is in the testimony of his child. Okay, so I want to be clear. Christ Jesus himself is the reason why their witchcraft isn't working. Christ Jesus himself is the reason why my ability to articulate what is literally confusing and spiritually dark conduct is making sense to those who are observing what it is that I'm exposing. It's because of Christ Jesus and who he is. It's because of his infinite wisdom. It's because of his provision and his testimony and his power that cannot be overwhelmed by any group of sex offending child molesters. Because this is what Satan relies on. That's what these demons are acting toward. They're pacing outside of my hotel room under a fake sun, gang stalking, and their grand plan was, we're going to engage in a whole bunch of gay sex rituals. This is a Jezebel spirit. This is demonic. Okay? And they're engaging in that, trying to combat, because they don't believe God. They do not believe in Christ Jesus and who he said. That's their foolishness. That's their mistake. And there are serious consequences for it here, because it's not just exercising your right to not believe. Now you've engaged in domestic terrorism in the United States. Now you've engaged in kidnapping pursuant to domestic terrorism, trying to obstruct justice against a whistleblower, the ordinary targeted individual, against the federal prosecutor, that is myself. Now you're going to federal prison for it. Okay, amongst every other crime that the entity, including TRACEE Banks, has committed. Okay, pedophilia, kidnapping, trying to conceal a child's identity since birth, while you're trying to distract away from that about property that belonged to me, since you knew that since I was a child, and I never knew that. And they are relying on witchcraft and gang stalking in order to engage in then what is necessarily you're targeting, even when you capture what you anticipated was going to be my crash out. How you are capturing my crash out without targeting me, I don't know, but this was their plan. And nobody asked those questions when the government is targeting with the people of the state. Nobody's going to ask, well, how did you get this footage of her? Nobody's asking those questions. They're sitting in courts that are targeting me, engaged in surveillance, having no jurisdiction over my property or over my person, while you're engaged in surveillance. And that's what the Constitution dictates. Okay? They're engaging in the exercise of fictitious authority. While they're doing that, this entity that's relying on spiritually attacking me and gang stalking me in the physical, while you're not supposed to be aware of the gang stalking conduct. And their plan was to capture evidence of me losing my mind on the roads and the highways out here, me crashing out all over the place. And then they were going to support what is the libelous and the false and malicious criminal conduct, perjury of the entity that includes TRACEE Banks and Eric Spencer, Jason Isaac Fields, etc., that are in a court, all of them conspiring to steal property, in addition to just hating me in general, because these are demons that don't like Christ Jesus. This is spiritual, all right? But it is manifesting in what is physical. Okay, and this physical is going to be a prosecution. But this is nonetheless the defeat of Satan himself, who has already lost. It was never a competition. It was never going to happen because they don't believe Christ Jesus when he says water is wet. Okay, they don't believe it. So they have to suffer a diagnosis and a prosecution and a conviction. Okay, they have to suffer that. The entities engaging in this pattern of conduct, why, pray tell, would you have the government engaging in directly obvious conduct of targeting like the Ontario International Airport is doing? Because they don't believe that they're facing the consequences that they're facing. And that down to the details of the license plate that I'm reading in real time is going to be federally prosecuted. And it's directly related to the demons that sat in courtrooms, libelous testimony and with a whole criminal act. That's not a legitimate court hearing. It's not a coincidence that I'm being gang stalked and I don't know anything about the court hearings. That the court hearings about property that I know nothing about. While this sex offender, this pedophile, TRACEE Banks, has been targeting me since I was a child, and she's still relying on witchcraft to attack me overnight, it's not working. I'm going to let you know about the demon possessed. You need to know about the times that we're in, especially in the United States of America. These are the times that we're in. This is the type of warfare that Satan is exacting against those who shall come to Christ Jesus. You may not be saved now, but the Lord knows who you are, and you will come to salvation, and you need to know this information now. You need to know it right now. Okay, it's for your benefit, and even for those that are not believers, perhaps you shall become a believer, because this is a testimony, an irrefutable one, with regard to the reality of Christ Jesus. There is no other person but for Christ Jesus that you would survive this and also maintain a sane mind to describe it, to articulate the details about it, to prove it, to lay it out in a palatable manner, to prosecute it, to use a legal skill. That is the testimony of the reality of Christ Jesus alone, period. And there is, by the way, no God beside him. And no one can stand before him. By the way, that's why the demon-possessed are trying to gang up against his child, because that's how powerful he is. That's a testimony to his lordship. There is only one true and living God, and he's prosecuting the state of California. And TRACEE Banks is going to federal prison. Everybody else defaming my character because they worship money instead of revering the name of Christ Jesus, who gave them warning after warning after warning after warning. And there is no elite secret society when you are dealing with what is nothing other than a bunch of pedophiles and sex offenders with severe mental illness that needs to be addressed because they rely on corrupt gang stalking police departments that I've already surrounded with the body of evidence, which is going to result in the disbanding of the Ontario Police Department. But that's what they rely on. That's how that system operates. Okay, it is currently 12:29 p.m. The entity is maintaining this specific environment in a manner that is irreconcilable with common sense, science, and nature. And why is that? Because the entity is indeed engaged in what is an obvious pattern of conduct. It takes a certain amount of time in order to not only prove, but also prove the fact that there is no variable, there is no anomaly, there's no exception to what it is that I have already proven that the United States government is practicing here in California amongst these lower level demons who are not elite. They're sex offenders exposed. That's it. They're a bunch of sex offenders. They rely on promiscuity. They rely on gay sex. They rely on pedophilia to garner spiritual authority, which they ordinarily attack unsuspecting, uncovered, and spiritually unprotected. If you don't know Christ Jesus as your Lord and Savior, you're walking around vulnerable. You are unprotected. If you do not know him as your personal Lord and Savior, you are unprotected. You don't have this level of amount of people walking around with the spirit of Satan all over them, with mental illness that has never been diagnosed, raging psychopaths, sharing in that. The reason why you have that is because Satan does have a measure of power. Okay, he is referred to as the strong man in Scripture. Okay, but the stronger man, that's Christ Jesus himself. He cannot overwhelm the stronger man. And if you do not have him as your Lord and Savior, you are vulnerable. You don't have any. And if you're thinking that witchcraft and sage is going to protect you, you are as deceived. It is only in Christ Jesus alone. The covering of his Holy Spirit that gives you the ability to understand what the ordinary man does not understand with his carnal mind. Okay? The entity does not understand, even though it's very plain, you're going to federal prison. You, as plain as that is in English, you're going to federal prison for gang stalking. Listen to this. This is audible activity under the fake sun. And let me show you the fake sun that's over my head while the Ontario International Airport is gang stalking at this venue with the people of the state. This is the P.O.C. And the fake sun is right here over me, and it was right here at 7:16 a.m. And the people of the state are still gang stalking as employees at the venue. That includes third-party license plate 9GTD454. Gang stalking while the impossible light activity is still all over. While you hear the door crackling, creaking, that's a demon, an employee that's gang stalking with the City of Ontario, listening to every word that I'm speaking of. All right, while he's monitoring a woman inside of a hotel room. And let me also show you the impossible light that's inside of my hotel room while a bunch of demons are witnessing their exposure and they're being embarrassed for being a bunch of sex offenders who are demon possessed, and they are inferior to Christ Jesus. They're inferior to his power. They're inferior to his spirit. And while you're going to see my shadow at a distance on the wall upright. This is P.O.C. This is where the employees are gang stalking. You'll see this third party that's gang stalking in the video where the Ontario International Airport flies over my head. By the way, these images are reflecting 12:33 p.m. The fake sun's at the same location. Okay, this third party that's on video, gang stalking by walking on the first floor. He's the same one that's going in and out of the office. That's the same entity that committed kidnapping on September 25th, 2020, pursuant to a fake warrant and a fictitious prosecution. The entity engaged in what is kidnapping on September 25th by the same Ontario Police Department who was gang stalking with the Ontario International Airport. Everything that the entity is doing is serving disbanding of that same department that repeated kidnapping after kidnapping after kidnapping after kidnapping while they're engaged in this criminal system. And they're doing it right now where you'll see the fake sun at 12:30. It's over the same location over my head while I can walk right outside, because that's what you just heard me do, and that's exactly what the images reflect. It's right over the top of my head where the Ontario International Airport, there's no terminal anywhere where you would even hear plane activity, where they would be flying from the airport or toward the airport, flying in the direction south over my hotel room to be heard or to be seen like I'm documenting, but it is in conformity to the pattern of conduct. And that's federal stalking by the establishment economy by mobile, who are under a fake sun at 7:16, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's 5 hours. And the entity is keeping the fake sun while the City of Ontario is engaging in this pattern of conduct. And this is, again, the mentally ill who are unhinged and obsessed in what is a lost endeavor. But it is your ability to know about what the demon-possessed are doing throughout this country. The demon-possessed are in positions of government. The demon-possessed call themselves some elite secret society. They're not elite. They're a bunch of pedophiles. They traffic children. They engage in criminal conduct as a corrupt government body. The government, in other words, acts as the one that facilitates this matter of public corruption. And by the way, it's not elite at all. You're a stalker, you're a thief, you're a criminal, okay? You're a fraud. There's nothing elite about that. They're a bunch of thieves. They're a bunch of demons. Demons are hideous. Ugly, filthy things, lower creatures. There's nothing elite about them. They're a bunch of criminals who are being exposed. And the City of Ontario is engaged in criminally facilitating and directly engaging in federal group stalking and monitoring. And that's what's underway at Economy Inn at 2301 South Euclid Avenue. And the entity's a grandiose plan of gang stalking never resulted in what was a crash out by me. What the entity has been met with is a comprehensive body of evidence that is referred to as the P.O.C. I've been documenting the entity targeting me since 2018, and the entity's been engaged in targeting me by corrupt courts that are concerning property that they never told me about. That's not a coincidence. That's evidence of targeting. This is how the entity is engaging in that pattern of conduct together. The corrupt police with the corrupt sheriffs, with the corrupt courts that are relying on their criminal conduct while simultaneously engaging in what are secret hearings about secret property with a secret conservatorship while I am simultaneously documenting the P.O.C. That is the comprehensive prosecution of the state of California. And they're very highly unintelligent while they continuously, as you were witnessing, giving me evidence, putting everybody in federal prison that had anything to do with stealing my property, defaming my character, because they were doing so banking. That is anticipating. That is reasonably anticipating, calculating what is my death. And that's exactly what you're planning on when you're gang stalking me through the police. And when you're gang stalking me through a public entity, a population of people. That's exactly what you're planning on. When you are engaged in what is repeated acts of kidnapping in order to manufacture a criminal record, and they did this to somebody that myself as a licensed attorney. I've never been a criminal, and so kidnapping does not create a criminal record. That's going to be dealt with, though. The entities engaged in what is obstruction of justice while they were making up criminal charges, and the entity is doing this while they are gang stalking the entire time, including at the police station, including at the sheriff's department, for example, West Valley Detention Center. They're monitoring, including while they're engaging in what is acting like they're legitimate police, acting like they're legitimate courthouses, acting like they're legitimate sheriff's departments. They're gang stalking while they had to make it up against me. They had to make up everything, including the information that was supposed to defame my character in order to qualify under a secret conservatorship, because these demons that are proven to be targeting thought that they were going to get away with stealing my property. And their genius plan included sitting back, engaging in what is spiritual warfare. Again, inferior to Christ Jesus, not going to work. But this is their plan, spiritual warfare, and then gang stalking. And that's supposed to be the evidence, because the ordinary targeted individual is, and that's not mental illness, that's my argument. The ordinary targeted individual even were an American citizen to react, in which way you cannot calculate. You can't tell somebody how to respond to psychological torture and targeting by a population, which I've proven is the case. You can't tell a human being how to respond to that, how to react to that in a way that's appropriate and normal and anticipated. You cannot measure that. And the entity is abusing and not engaging in what is the practice of medicine. This is, understand the abusive and criminal misuse of the practice of medicine to facilitate this pattern of conduct. That's what San Bernardino County represents. That's what Arrowhead Regional Medical Center represents. And by the way, they did not engage in that toward me. They're always making it up against Erica Lorraine Spencer, myself. They made it up, because they didn't get that from me. I'm advocating on behalf of the ordinary targeted individual, however, who may very well react to what is never supposed to be the case. You're never supposed to be subject to this level of inhumane targeting, psychological torture. Okay? And it's not mental illness when a human being reacts under these circumstances. But the entity that is engaged in targeting planned to engage in this while spiritually attacking, at the same time gang stalking, and then thought that I was going to, have a breakdown and freak out somewhere, and then they were just going to miraculously catch it on camera and then submit that in court, and then bada bing, bada boom, they have all my property. And then they were going to tell me about it. They were going to lock me up in a facility where the entity ultimately intended to also take my life. It was not enough to take my property. They want me dead. That's what their plan was. And the plan remains, because the entity is still gang stalking. This is relevant to when I am literally in court, and up to date, my documentation remains current. Eric Corey Spencer is still targeting me. Tracy Banks is still targeting me. Jason Isaac Fields is still targeting me. The entity that engaged in kidnapping on September 25th, 2020, they're still targeting. Literally, even at the same venue. But I want to be clear, the kidnappers, A. Morris, Corporal Kemp, they're still targeting as an entity. You're going to prison. There's no statute of limitations. And by the way, there's also, with regard to understanding the way that works, statute of limitations doesn't even start to toll until the crime has ceased to occur. They're still monitoring. They're still targeting. Nobody's getting away with anything. That's my point. And the entity's plan is very much lacking in what is actual prudence and wisdom. They don't have a strategy. It's relying on bare bones corruption. And it's also highly intelligent. Your plan was to target me, spiritually attack me, and bake on that witchcraft to work on my mind to break me down while you're gang stalking me. And I'm supposed to have some sort of publicly exposed crash out where you capture it on video. And then nobody's going to ask, well, where were you to capture this on video, and how come you were capturing on video instead of helping her? Like, what is it where were you at to get this angle? And this is like, nobody asks these sort of questions at all with regard to what is nothing other than submitting what is necessary in order to qualify under what is an unconstitutionally vague piece of legislation that is going to change because of what the U.S. government is doing in this country. But nonetheless, that was their plan. All right, they didn't get that. So then what was the next tactic? Make it up. Just make it up. And while the entity is, by the way, simultaneously stealing my intellectual property, you're going to federal prison for that. They're gang stalking me, repeatedly kidnapping me, and then trying to suppress my evidence online. Steal it, profit from it. And third-party facilitating venues, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, wherever the entity that's engaging in my property, in stealing my property, stealing my intellectual property, misrepresenting it as your own, you are an admitted gang stalker, number one. And number two, you're stealing from the targeted individual. You are not exercising any freedom of speech. You are fully exposed to a federal prosecution and furtherance of murder and kidnapping with the intent to obstruct justice. You are doing so while you are targeting, including while you are stealing and misusing my intellectual property. Understand how there is a whole connectedness regarding the pattern of conduct that's committed by a corrupt government. And because of the level of criminal conduct, meaning the government's engagement, you don't have any constitutional protections whatsoever. I will prosecute you, I will find you, and I will prosecute you. You are an admitted gang stalker, by the way. You're not coincidentally stealing my property, my intellectual property, which I'm using to publish how the entity has been targeting me for years. The entity that's engaged in surveillance is pacing outside of my hotel room by walking in engineer light and flying over my head under the fake sun is the same entity that's engaged in monitoring my evidence that's published online and then seeking to steal it and profit from it. Those are the unintelligent demons that thought that gang stalking and witchcraft was the perfect formula for then catching me have some sort of mental breakdown, and then that was going to be what was going to be the key to stealing my property under a secret conservatorship. The entity that's engaged in gang stalking, including that demon that's calling themselves a judge in that criminal offense. I don't have to be in the courtroom. This is what you don't understand. I don't have to be in the courtroom. I don't have to be in the courtroom, but the fact that I'm not, the fact that I knew nothing about the court hearings, the fact that I know nothing about the property, that everybody's giving testimony over my character as to how I can't rule over property that I don't even know anything about. But yet I'm surrounding the government with insurmountable evidence proving, with regard to what's going on in the rest of the country, surveillance in an unprecedented manner. Inhumane means of surveillance. I can't handle my own property and money, even though I've been running my own life, my entire adult life. In the face of this psychopath TRACEE Banks, who's been somebody that's been trying to steal my identity, in the face of all her psychopathic conduct, running my own life, but then again, secretly, and you are necessarily doing this behind my back secretly. You are necessarily doing it because the entity will never stand in my face and state any of these absurdly defamatory statements and storylines. It just like you saw on May 29, 2025. I wish you would try to lie in my face. Where is the medication? What medication are you talking about? What are you talking about? You're straight lying, making it up in real time, and they're not even intelligent. They can't even talk about, if you're talking about somebody that engaged in violence against you, why wouldn't you tell that person, you engaged in violence, you know what you did, and I'm calling the police because you just violated my person. This is not what this liar does, TRACEE Banks, on May 29, 2025, because she made it up. And she's a high school graduate, not with lacking very much in what is any sort of wisdom, any sort of strategy, and that's good because I mean it's not a good thing when you're dealing with a lot of cunning and clever and strategic criminals. Nonetheless, this was going to be an inevitable demise of the enemy, but I'm just stating that this is not that. These demons are unintelligent, they're ignoramuses, they're desperate, and they're sloppy. They're not even intelligent in the ways in which they come up with their lies. They cannot answer common sense questions because they're lying. And my ability to engage in common sense inquiry in the moment is speaking to their lies that they come with on the moment, but they're not able to back them up. They're lying. Okay, and that's what TRACEE Banks is doing on May 29, 2025. Everything coming out of her face, including adding in physical violence, which is what she did after the Ontario Police Department left, because it wasn't enough of a lie to exercise fictitious authority by the gang stalkers, the Ontario Police, to arrest pursuant to the Welfare and Institutions Code, Section 5150, which is the entity that's engaging in the pattern of conduct with the intent to criminally defame. And TRACEE Banks and Jason Isaac Fields are engaging in this pattern of conduct, relying on kidnappings with the intent to steal property under a secret conservatorship. This is what's relevant with regard to their satanic and perverted union. This is with regard to the means whereby the entity has sought to form financial contractual attachments to me, a secret conservatorship, fake marriages. The entity that's engaging in what are insurance fraudulent scams about my identity and things that they have on me in order to steal money and property from me. This is all the ways in which they sought to have some sort of way to leech from me. And it's all criminal and fraudulent, all of it, while they're gang stalking. This is where the significance of criminal summoning. And the Ontario Police are the demons gang stalking day and night, including while you saw today at 7:16 in the morning in that video, under the fake sun that's still present at 12:30 in the afternoon, the Ontario Police Department is engaging in a very well documented pattern of conduct, including while a different color helicopter with a yellow bottom, which doesn't look like the Ontario Police Department's black helicopter, and the blue and white helicopter, and the gray and blue helicopter that they used to gang stalk me all throughout the city. Excuse me, not one, but I'm just speaking to the different helicopters that the Ontario Police Department have used. It doesn't matter what color the helicopter is. It doesn't matter who is sharing in that pattern. It's the pattern of conduct by the public entity. And the Ontario Police Department has been mimicking the pattern of conduct while they use Ontario Police Department helicopters gang stalking me. And it is the same police department that is going to be disbanded as they act in conformity to that P.O.C., including this morning on video when you saw a helicopter with a yellow bottom flying over my head at this venue. It's not removing the Ontario Police from the pattern of conduct. It's not an exception. You're getting into the individualization of traditional stalking. This is gang stalking. The entity is stalking as an entity. They can have LAPD come to San Bernardino County and fly over my head at Economy Inn, and it's the entity acting as one. Do not get lost in the trees. The Ontario Police Department is being disbanded. That's the same exact pattern of conduct that they're exhibiting. And there's no different color of helicopter that's going to deviate from that same exact P.O.C. Fake sun is still present. The entity was stalking by plane and helicopter. The entity is stalking by plane right now while you're listening to me document under a fake sun. This is the significance of a population, a vacillating, ongoing series of identities while the specific environment remains all day long and all night long. Because the same engineered light, just like I documented last night, 3 shadows in front of me. This is engineer light while they're walking in and a light is manifesting in the shade. It's engineer light in an unintelligent environment. And I broke it down so that you can understand the malice of a bunch of psychopaths who are very unintelligent. They're just sneaky. That's it. But they're not smart, okay? They're just wicked, but they're not witty. They're just desperate, okay? But they're under no circumstances are they under any circumstances whatsoever are they superior. The entity, the demons rely on, or they think in their minds, numerosity is the way, the key. No, it's not. That's only with those who are in darkness like them. Demons, overwhelming demons. There is no amount of demons that are going to supersede the deity of Christ Jesus. And this is getting to what is the spiritual warfare inherent to what is the pattern of conduct of federal group stalking and monitoring. It's demonic. And the government's engaged in what is spiritually attacking American citizens. And now with regard to prosecuting and with regard to tangible evidence, physical crimes, okay, because this is not a witch hunt, all right, and this is a constitutionally authorized system, even though the government's being exposed for public corruption, that is that constitutionally authorized system in operation, prosecuting a corrupt government that's exercising authority it does not have. Okay, so you're going to prosecute based on the specific environment. That specific environment is very highly demonic, and it's also immediate basis of probable cause. What's going on here? How is the sun remaining over one address all day long? Yeah, that's a reasonable question, and the answer is in the P.O.C. And it's serving for what is surveillance by a corrupt government that's also very maniacal. As maniacal as providing real-time evidence against itself and everyone else. By stalking under a fake sun, like I'm documenting at 12:30 in the afternoon. I was here and the fake sun is over me at 7:16 in the morning. And this is evidence that's putting gang stalking police officers in federal prison. This is evidence that's putting people like Tracy Banks and Eric Spencer in federal prison. If Tommy Allen Banks, he's already subject to federal prison for crossing state lines, engaging in federal stalking, like I documented in August of 2019. If he sat in a court and engaged in defaming my character, if he's going to federal prison for that. There is nobody that is, with regard to the system that I've exposed and that which I advocate, SIIS federal legislation, systematic infliction of inhumane suffering, in order to address every malicious iteration of this pattern of conduct that a government engages in and necessarily is employing with the people of the state who are sharing in this criminal surveillance system, which is domestic terrorism and psychological torture. And it's underway in the state of California. It is underway in the United States of America. And the entity is engaging in that and doing so in ways in which I have prescribed how to address it. And by the way, this federal statute that I advocate, that I support for federal law, is published on the website at thisisthepoc.wordpress.com. You can go under the advocacy tab. Okay, but that's speaking out toward what are all the ways in which you're identifying the definitions and the law, and it is also speaking to expanding upon language, which is I also advocate expanding the language of the federal stalking statute based on the entity that is gang stalking. As they engage in the elements of monitoring, this is relevant to surveillance. The entity is literally engaging in the elements of monitoring pursuant to the operation of communication devices, affecting the operation of your devices, affecting your access to the internet, how the internet is operating, while the entity is engaging in all manner of surveillance in relevant position, that is the gang stalking conduct, and also on the venue of the internet and on communication devices where surveillance is also underway. All right, so I just want to make sure that that's clear. The entity's so-called genius plan by these non-elite pedophiles who worship Satan for power that does not give them any sort of authority or superiority to Christ Jesus. This is speaking to the exposure of a demonic entity that's corrupt, and it's a public entity. All right. This is speaking to a prosecution for pedophiles that are relying on corrupt government and corrupt departments within that government, like the police, the sheriff, the court, that I've already surrounded with evidence. And it's getting down to the demons who sat in court trying to defame my character with this ass entity. You're a psychopath stalking. And again, the entity is engaging in what is planning to capture my my anticipated breakdown while they were using witchcraft and gang stalking. I was supposed to just have a widely exposed crash out, and then they were going to capture it on video and submit that in court in these secret hearings about my property. And this is what the corrupt government was going to rely on to have a stake in sharing my property, my money. None of that is happening, and the entity is going to be diagnosed for the mental illness that this pattern of conduct proves is in existence amongst this population, and this unprecedented basis of public corruption. And this public corruption is, again, providing jurisdiction to the federal government. And also the specific environment is providing probable cause to the federal government to investigate, basically, because of surveillance that is exposed in the government, in the United States, at the state levels and the local levels. They're engaging in all manner of life under the fake sun where surveillance is underway. And the federal government in the specific environment has probable cause where you're identifying the environment where surveillance, and you're not, the government, just because, in other words, has shown that it's engaging in this level of corruption with the people of the state, public corruption, the government is not going to be treated as, oh, well, we believe you because you are who you are. That's unjust, and it is proven to be unfair to American citizens who are being targeted throughout this country. And so it is a basis of what is probable cause, and probable cause for the federal government's involvement based on both the specific environment and also based on the entity that's engaging in what is surveillance under Title 18, federal stalking, the federal stalking statute, which is proven through the maintenance of the specific environment because the sun is not simultaneously over Florida. And that's just one, I keep giving that example so that you can get it memorized in your head. What do I always address? Florida, to give you an extreme example of what's impossible to coexist. It's impossible while I'm in the same city on Euclid Avenue at the south end, and at the north end of Euclid Avenue is Starbucks at 507 North Euclid Avenue. The sun is not simultaneously there either, nor is it in Florida. Nor is it in New York or in Las Vegas, Nevada, or in Minnesota, or in Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, North Dakota. The entity is engaging in what is the clear identification of an environment where surveillance is underway amongst a population, and it is exposing public corruption. It is a basis of probable cause to investigate for the involvement of the federal government by virtue of exposing this specific environment where the government's engaged in surveillance in the way in which these idiots of the city of Ontario have proven Okay, and the idiots that include the people of the state, high school graduates that can't even get their lives together like Tracy Banks. Okay, the entity that's engaging in this pattern of conduct, like the demons who are puppets just pacing around me, this ritualistic, this idolatry, while they worship me and pace all around me and engineer light under a fake sun all day long. A population of lower beings. These are the demon possessed, okay? And so this is the reality of what's going on, and it's criminal activity. And it's simultaneously exposing to you what is spiritual warfare. The demon possessed that are engaged in targeting unsuspecting people. And like I said, it is the bottom line is outside of a personal relationship with Christ Jesus as your Lord and Savior, not some vague knowledge of Scripture where you are not walking in the truth of that Scripture, living it as your Lord, as Christ Jesus has said. It's not just knowledge, brain knowledge about what the Bible says, and then you live your life however you want. You have a bunch of demons that sit in church every Sunday, in case you don't understand what I'm stating. All these fake churches where the fake sun is over me, and they're gang stalking while they're simultaneously singing the name of Jesus. It's audible activity. It's the demonic activity in real time. You will not be saved by your religion. And certainly witchcraft. Exchanging witchcraft for witchcraft. This is what Satan is relying on you to do. Okay, I just want to be clear. This is the reality of what is criminal conduct and what is exposing what is unprecedented corruption by a government that is in service of Satan. And Satan is being exposed, and Satan loses no matter who the vessel is. So if you call yourself a mayor, I'm speaking, excuse me, sir or madam, no, you are not a mayor while you're engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring, which the people of the state and throughout the city and the government at every level of authority is proven to be engaged in the federal group stalking and monitoring. You are not a lawyer, a mayor. You are a gang stalking public official, which is an oxymoron requiring your disqualification, your removal, public removal from office. Gang stalking mayors are not staying in office. The city of Ontario has been exposed for domestic terrorism for years. This is years in the making. Okay, and the entities engaging in what's going on in this little corner of California, the city of Ontario, understand that this is a template for what's going on throughout the country. Throughout the country. And this is exposing what needs to be known. Mental illness is more prevalent and it's more common than those that are in this so-called medical profession would like to know. And they're also putting out what is propaganda, misinformation about mental illness that they suffer from. Demons that are in the medical field, demons that get their degree as MDs, who are gang stalking psychopaths, who are engaged in the demonic pattern of conduct while they're on the job, okay, making prescriptions, pacing around inside of the facility under a fake sun, where they're engaging in the demonic pattern of conduct, engaged in public corruption, which is reliant upon corrupt medical professionals. Those are psychopaths as well who are also mentally ill. It's psychopathic. It's maniacal. Okay? It's demented while they pace around, and that's somebody that you're relying on giving you your prescription. Okay? That's a demon-possessed person. Now, the entity's spreading about a lot of propaganda about actual mental illness while they want to falsely depict the character of targeted individuals that they want to steal from, that they want to target, because you don't share that condition. Because you don't serve Satan. Because you're not affiliated with Satan. And Satan also is threatened by you because Satan knows that you can expose him. That's why. And by the way, the fact that a population is engaging in the pattern of conduct, which you know beyond any reasonable doubt while you're witnessing the prosecution on the internet, by the way, because a fake sun is sitting over the hotel, that's how you know that a population is stalking. That's also how you know that they're demons. Because what is informing a bunch of quote-unquote ostensibly they're strangers, but then they're not. The specific environment is proving that they know exactly who I am. That's how you know that they're demons as well. The demon-possessed are severely mentally ill human beings whose mental illness they intended to keep closeted, and it is a national security threat. These are the same people that engage in violence of gang stalking who are perfectly capable. I don't care what the details of their home life is. I don't care if they're some sort of a fire chief with a perfect marriage, a 35-year marriage, and 2.5 kids. That demon-possessed third party is under the leadership of Satan, who whispers in their mind, and they listen to Satan. This is why they're pacing around me using fire trucks. This is why they're monitoring me in a hotel room when I'm in a Starbucks cafe and when I'm at the Ovid Family Community Library. They listen to Satan. while they're following me using things as absurd as fire trucks. And when Satan gives the word, I want you to go downtown and shoot up the mall, that's exactly what they'll do. Now, this is your knowledge about who they are and what they do. And you're going to witness me prosecute the demon-possessed population, which is going under the name of the state of California. It's 1:01 p.m. The entity is keeping the fake sun. And this is, again, courtesy of the city of Ontario that's gang stalking by paying for a hotel room at third-party facility and venue Economy Inn, and doing so while they are keeping the evidence of its own psychopathic behavior and criminal system under surveillance, which is not helping defendants like TRACEE Banks, who was going to federal prison. So was her sex partner, Jason Isaac Fields. They are gang stalking and targeting me with the motive of stealing property from me, doing so as a part of these demonic, this witch coven, this sex cult, whatever these demons. I'm not into labels. They serve Satan. They're inferior. They're a bunch of demons to me, okay? They're a bunch of puppets. They're a bunch of imps and minions, okay? You're a whole weirdo stalking in planes and in helicopters. And by the way, you're going to be removed from the ability to even do that anymore while the entity engages in that. 1:02 p.m. commercial plane activity over my hotel room while the same demons are gang stalking as a society. This is the prosecution of the state. TRACEE Banks is going to federal prison. She's going to federal prison. She's at the forefront, okay? So she is at the forefront with, again, her sex partner, Jason Isaac Fields. So is he. Okay, and her gang stalking son, Eric Spencer, he's at the forefront of it. These are some of the first people. They're going straight to federal prison. As quick as gang stalking police officers are going, they're going to federal prison. Right? This is the system that the entity thought was never going to be exposed. This is the system that the entity thought was going to cause me to have a mental breakdown in order to corroborate their libelous testimony and what are criminal acts committed by corrupt courts that are engaging in surveillance with this entity that's engaging in the P.O.C. at Economy Inn, another venue. All right. And they're doing so because they thought that they were going to steal my property and falsely depict my character by doing so. And the exact opposite is happening. It is currently 1:03 p.m. This is what the entity was doing this morning with commercial plane flying over me at 7:16 a.m. on video. This is what the entity is doing while it is keeping that fake sun until what you know is after 7 p.m. That's exactly what I captured on video because Satan is a liar, and Satan is a liar that's engaging what is defaming my character, doing so through those who feign to be loving family members and friends who are all after property that they're not touching. None of them are putting their paws on it. Anything that they already stole, you're going to serve time for that. Okay, so I just want to be clear. It's currently 1:04 p.m. where the city of Ontario is gang stalking, targeting me by flying over my hotel room by commercial airline planes. The two terminals, Terminals 2 and Terminal 4, are remaining at the 2500 Airport Drive and 2900 Airport Drive. And every airline that is associated with the Ontario International Airport is also shown to be what terminals that they depart from and what times. The entity is gang stalking me by commercial planes flying south over my hotel room under the enduring fake sun and an engineered light while psychopaths are pacing around the 60 freeway. Now you're able to understand what they're doing. That's not traffic, that's surveillance. And it's specifically a demon-possessed entity that is focused on me while the fake sun remains and engineered light remains, and they're pacing. This is Satan that's going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And Satan is doing so under the guise of traffic on the 60 freeway. Satan is doing the same thing under the guise of traffic on Euclid Avenue. Satan is doing through the same thing under the guise of maintaining a business at Mobile at 2315 South Euclid Avenue, at the hotel itself at Economy and at 2310 2301 South Euclid Avenue in Ontario, at what is Driftwood Village, at the grocery outlet, where the entity is engaged in criminal monitoring with the city of Ontario that's maintaining aerial surveillance in a manner that is, again, outside of what the entity is also publishing on the website. And any planes, for example, Alaska Airlines that engages in what is gang stalking me at Vesta and C Street under the fake sun, and at the Ontario Town Square where the fake sun is present from morning until afternoon, but now morning until evening, because I'm documenting, I believe his name is Goldfinger, gang stalking under the 6:26 p.m. fake sun at the Ontario Town Square, which is 224 South Euclid Avenue, 224 North Euclid Avenue in Ontario, California. That's not going to be at Economy and reflecting off of the building of the same hotel. It's not at, in 2021, I'm also documenting the fake sun at 6:20 or at around the same time. There's a history of evidence with the entity stalking me under a fake sun. The entity is engaged in this P.O.C. and the entity that's engaging what is acting as though they're taking off, because why else are you at a low elevation with the loud plane activity? Because you're just engaging what is flying throughout the city, or you're acting like you're taking off over that venue. The entity doesn't know. These are unintelligent demons who are stalking, period, in unprecedented manners that's directly relevant to the mental illness. Okay? That mental illness is a national security threat. And the first thing that you can do is deport the gang stalking immigrants. That's the first thing you can do. And that's exactly what's going to happen, in addition to what is dealing with the homegrown terrorists that are gang stalking as corrupt governments, like the city of Ontario under the corrupt and dangerous leadership of Paul Leon. All right, flying south over my hotel room, that has nothing to do with taking off from 2500 to 2900 Airport Drive, or being in a position to land. If you're coming from some position west and you're flying and then you're doing a donut over my hotel room while you're en route to 2500 or 2900 Airport Drive, the entity is engaged in what is stalking under all circumstances. And then there's the bigger body, because they're taking off over 325 West G Street, and I put that in air quotes, taking off. The sound of the plane activity doesn't start until I start capturing video of it, and then all of a sudden the sound of the plane is heard. And while I'm directly capturing the direct opposite, I was just speaking to just the other day, the entity that's maintaining plane activity is getting at a tremendous distance away from my room, and then the plane activity is sounding inside of my room. That's demonic. It's amplification. You witnessed demonic activity in HD this morning while the demon flew over my head in a commercial plane, one of them being UPS, under the 7:16 a.m. fake sun, and the sound of that plane activity is demonic conduct. While the plane flying over is relevant positioning, that's also demonic conduct by a demon that's representing a corrupt government that's engaged in what is harassment and terrorism pursuant to state surveillance as you prosecute it in the physical. But the sound of the plane activity is separate from the physical presence of that plane activity. That's how I'm able to document, like I did the other day. I'm taking pictures of the plane that's at a great distance away. There's no way I would hear the plane activity like I just heard. I'm right here at the door. So just like I captured right now, and like I captured on video. I'm capturing it on video right now. Well, not right now at this moment, but I'm capturing on video today what the entity is doing while they're separating the sound of the plane activity and the crossing path of the plane activity. The entity does the same thing with helicopter activity. I've surrounded LAPD with a lot of examples of this as well. But nonetheless, the entity is engaging in what is the publishing of planes taking off, flights departing from the venue. For example, you have what is at 1:15 p.m. headed towards Salt Lake City. This is the entity Delta Airlines taking off from Terminal 2, Gate 209 at 1:15 p.m. taking off from Terminal 2. There's nowhere at 231 South Euclid Avenue is that anywhere incorporated with flying over this venue. The entity is engaging in the pattern of conduct with regard to and that's just one example, just giving you, because Terminal 2 and Terminal 4 are both sharing what is going out of your way. In other words, you're far deviating from having anything to do with planes arriving and departing toward destinations when you're not engaging in just willy-nilly stalking and harassment in planes in the specific environment, which is already proven to the specific environment. I'm just giving you a common sense basis level of scrutiny of what the demons are doing while they're clearly targeting with commercial planes. And who is that a prosecution of? The people of the state. UPS is also documenting gang stalking through its demon-possessed employees that drive the vehicles of UPS with the logos on it. Stalking me with impossible light activity. Stalking me with the Ontario Police Department. Stalking me with the Los Angeles Police Department. Stalking me with the entity that's maintaining the fake sun over me while the demon-possessed drive vehicles and fly planes bearing the same logos. This is that federal RICO case of the people of the state that are, again, the special needs population that is practicing surveillance throughout this country. Just so that you know, the Ontario International Airport maintains a website that publishes the flights, arrivals, and departures, and nowhere is Delta Airlines' departure from the Terminal 2 include flying hovering over the 280 North Lemon Apartments at the Ontario Town Square. The entity is engaging in what is flying over my head at the 507 North Euclid Avenue at the intersection of Euclid Avenue and E Street, like they're taking off from the San Bernardino County Department of Housing Authority. The entities clearly the Delta Airlines represents the people of the state. And this is the ongoing connectedness and how you know that, number one, that they're demons. And number two, the fact that they are engaged in the pattern of conduct of federal group stalking and monitoring, which is the demonic targeting system revealing state surveillance. All right. So I just want to document that. It's currently 1:11 p.m. and the entity is engaging in this while the pattern of conduct remains underway. And so always remember the entities stalking in a specific environment, which is also the proof of stalking. The demons that are pacing outside of my room, as the evidence is published online, includes license 9MFD524. And the demons that are gang stalking with license 8ADL482. And the demon that is gang stalking license 8VYW021. These demons are engaged in what is federal stalking, Title 18. They're moving around under the fake sun. That's light activity. All right, they're not standing under the sun, and they are standing at what is a target to identify who they're monitoring, and that's myself. And they're also doing it in an environment that's also obvious with regard to their prosecution because the sun was here at 7:16 a.m. So what are they standing under? It is indeed a target, and they have made themselves a target with regard to a federal prosecution for terrorism in the United States. And they're doing so with the government that also provides evidence that they're targeting, while that same government engages in what is using planes and helicopters under a fake sun and in engineered light, while they're monitoring on communication devices in violation of Title 18, Section 2261A, subsections 1 and 2, and they are all sharing in what is an egregiously violent sex offense as an entity. It's not just those 3 license plates, obviously. They represent an entity. Those are the demons that are pacing around in this specific environment in my immediate vicinity, while I'm capturing mental illness as well. They're pacing. These are demons whose minds are very much demented, very much perverted, very much dangerous while they are targeting American citizens, and they're targeting somebody that's here to prosecute them. So this is speaking to what American citizens have a right to not be subject to. It's currently 1:13 p.m. now. All right, plane activity, the Ontario International Airport at 1:57 p.m., gang stalking by commercial planes. I did also share what is publishing the screenshot of all the airlines that are engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring with the Ontario International Airport. It includes Alaska Airlines, America Airlines, Avianca, China Airlines, Delta Airlines, Frontier, JetBlue, Southwest Airlines, Starlux, which makes international flights, and so does Alaska Airlines, United Airlines, Volaris, Amazon, FedEx, and UPS. Alaska Airlines departs from Terminal 2. Everybody that departs from Terminal 2 includes Alaska Airlines, Avianca, China Airlines, Delta Airlines, Frontier, JetBlue, Volaris, United Airlines. Everybody that departs, all the airlines that depart from Terminal 4 includes American Airlines, Southwest Airlines, Starlux Airlines, and the entity does not publish which terminals Amazon, FedEx, and UPS depart from. The entity is sounding plane activity with simultaneity to my opening up my podcast in order to publish the audio documentation that I just captured recently. It's currently 1:29 p.m. That's stalking with activity under the fake sun. I'll go ahead and capture an image of that fake sun to show the ongoing criminal monitoring by the Ontario International Airport, which is engaged in state surveillance, and it is directly relevant to the prosecution of the people of the state who are gang stalking with that government, providing that direct evidence of state targeting, which is committed with the people of the state. Mobile is gang stalking at 2315 South Euclid Avenue, and the Economy Inn, where I'm located at 2301 South Euclid Avenue, is gang stalking. It's currently 1:29 p.m. So departures are published on the website at 1:34 p.m. United Airlines coming from what is gate 202. And I want to share that. That's, again, the entity's gang stalking me at 1:20. Oh, excuse me. This is a screenshot. The current time is 1:59. So that's 1:57 p.m.
as I'm documenting, I'm looking at a screenshot with that time, so I want to correct the record. It's 1:59 p.m. And the entity is engaging in what is 1:34 p.m. is what the screenshot shows. This is already uploaded onto the Google Drive for you to look at. The real-time information about what the Ontario International Airport, the gang stalker itself, publishes about arrivals and departures from the venue where the entity is gang stalking and maintaining aerial surveillance by commercial airline planes. All of the aforesaid airlines are engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring, many of which I've documented crossing path, flying over my head, stalking in the path while the fake sun is over me, while engineer light surrounds and the people of the state are pacing all around, sharing in the demonic pattern of conduct, domestic terrorism, and psychological torture, state surveillance, as I'm documenting right now, the entity engaging in the gang stalking pattern of conduct using commercial planes while they are monitoring what I'm doing on my device, which is in violation of the federal stalking statute. At 11:56 a.m., looks like 12 p.m., 12:14 p.m., 12:14, 12:32, 12:35, 1:26 p.m., 1:34 p.m., 1:47 p.m. is the closest to what we have right now. American Airlines, today, July 19, 2025, where the entity would be arriving at Terminal 4, and no arrival. I just want to share this information. American Airlines is what is published arriving at Terminal 4, coming from Dallas, Fort Worth, and doing so at what would be 1:47 p.m. The entity is flying over my room at around 1:58, 1:57 p.m. with simultaneity to what I'm doing on my phone. This is the entity that is gang stalking. The entity is engaging in an ongoing documented pattern of conduct, as I've documented at all the facilitating venues, which includes Woodside Senior Apartments, where on video you can hear the plane activity. There's no arrival, in other words, landing or taking off over the Woodside Senior Apartments. In the same way, there's no landing or taking off over this hotel room in particular, let alone over this street, where the entity is at 201 South Euclid Avenue, where you also see there's no sunrise and sunset at this address either. It's all identifying targeting by the entity that is demon possessed. This is mental illness, while stalkers of a very demented mind state engage in stalking, surveillance using commercial planes. And this is criminal conduct that's attributed to Alan D. Wapner, who is a president of this corrupt operation. While the entity is using corrupt businesses, every airline is engaged in surveillance. And for documentation purposes, publishing what is the ongoing evidence of surveillance. The entity is gang stalking under the 7:16 a.m. fake sun using UPS as a commercial airline, crossing path, flying over the hotel building in the direction south, just hovering, having nothing to do with taking off or arriving at the airport. But they're flying in the direction south and then making a U-turn flying east. This is what the entity is doing in real time and maintaining ongoing amplified audible activity. The plane activity is a method of amplified audible activity, and it is equally demonic. It is also that which is attributable to the government in order to prosecute it for state surveillance. Gang stalking with commercial planes, okay? It's currently, again, 2:03 p.m. I'm going to go ahead and get the fake sun right now while I am capturing the podcast, where the venue at 231 South Euclid Avenue is maintaining a fake sun, gang stalking, and engineer light. All of the hotel rooms, including the demon, gang stalking by housekeeping, and room 240 is gang stalking, room 239, and the demon license 9SBU 962 is also gang stalking, an African-American male accessing that vehicle while doing so under the fake sun surrounding inside of the venue. Yeah, going to the adjacent rooms while the entity is flying over the room and the fake sun is remaining over the room. All right, opening up the hotel room where engineer light is on that hotel room. It's the same pattern of conduct that you saw the demons doing earlier while the entity is maintaining the fake sun and they're pacing while I'm uploading the documentation. That's the same P.O.C. So I'm going to go ahead and capture where the entity is stalking under the fake sun, and that is where you're seeing what is relevant positioning. All right, it's currently 2:04 p.m. where the Ontario International Airport is targeting. The sex offenders are going into room 241, gang stalking, African-American couple. That's the license plate that I read. Opening up the room with impossible light activity on it, okay? So you can see it while he's walking upstairs. His shadow appears on my hotel room door, accessing room number 241, and doing so in the impossible light activity. This is P.O.C. Alrighty, and that is again the entity that's crossing path monitoring together on the ground, pacing all around while the entity flies over. And these are demons that are inside of their hotel rooms stalking with activity. They also maintain knowledge about my vagina. These are sex offenders sharing in that sex offense with the government, monitoring inside of a private space, sharing in what is domestic terrorism and psychological torture, and that impossible maintenance of the sun. You're talking about 7:16 a.m. and it's 2:04 p.m. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1. We're 7 hours in of keeping the fake sun over the demons who are gang stalking as an establishment. A documented kidnapper, economy in at 2301 South Euclid Avenue, and also the people of the state themselves who are engaging in that pattern of conduct with knowledge and intent in conformity to the pattern of conduct. You're seeing the housekeeper gang stalking. She's under the hotel room. She's in engineer light. It covers the hotel building. The fake sun is over my head as I'm documenting. You'll see it in the image captured at 2:04 p.m. I'm at the same property at 2301 South Euclid Avenue. The demon is these demons are gang stalking by going to their vehicles, engaging in housekeeping, walking in and out of their hotel rooms. Engineer light is covering everything while the demons are flying over my hotel room. And the entity does so, the City of Ontario does so with simultaneity to my accessing my podcast. It is 2:05 p.m. This is the stalker that is acting furtherance of trying to criminally defame someone in order to steal. TRACEE Banks is going to federal prison for this government system that she relied on in order to steal under a secret conservatorship. And this is also what is putting Jason Isaac Fields and every other gang stalking police officer in prison, targeting me under a fake sun in a system, a state system that the entity is engaging in with a high level of malice, meaning thinking that they recovered that level of malice with regard to the secret system that you're never supposed to be aware of. That level of malice is also a threat to your life, okay? While a bunch of psychopaths are stalking you in a hotel, to do so, this population is the same entity that's stalking in when I'm sitting in the library all day long. Stalking with noise while the demons are flying over the library while the fake sun remains over the library. It's the same P.O.C. carry it to any type of venue. And the entity is engaging in the same identical pattern of conduct. And the entity does so exposing the entity that's going to be prosecuted. These are, as one entity, engaging in that pattern of conduct as one. I want to be clear, the federal government is engaging in what is unlawful criminal acts of which are inhumane and unconstitutional. Taking on what is an investigation based on the criminal conduct of the government is no basis for the government to perpetuate that pattern of conduct and facilitate it, because that's what the federal government is doing. I want to be clear, Jason Isaac Fields is no legitimate government actor. This is a domestic terrorist. This is a sex offender who was literally engaging in what is gang stalking me while he was living in another state in Las Vegas, Nevada, gang stalking while he'd been having a sexual relationship with TRACEE Banks, not telling me about it, while he's monitoring me on. We would typically converse over the phone. And the reason why I'm focusing on Jason Isaac Fields is because this is somebody who is not different from the rest of the people of the state. He is gang stalking while abusing a government position. He is not any sort of hero. He is not welcome with regard to having any sort of involvement in threatening my life and safety by being in my presence like any other gang stalking terrorist who was not welcome in my presence. And I fully intend, I want to be clear, this is someone that has never been engaged in any relationship with me. He's been sexually involved with this 60-year-old third party, TRACEE Banks. And gang stalking and through the decrepit, that old decrepit way of what he thought was a lottery ticket to wealth, while he's engaged in what is under no circumstances supported or understandable with regard to why you engaged in targeting an American citizen. This demon would claim because he was told this and he was told that, and it's no excuse and it's no defense with regard to a prosecution for violation of federal laws. I want to be clear, the entity is engaged in what is targeting while the federal government is watching it underway. The federal government's not investigating. This is not an investigation. Jason Isaac Fields is engaged in, this is a demon. He's engaged in spiritually attacking while gang stalking is being documented, and it is occurring while he is a part of the same entity. I documented him in 2018, the last time that I was in his presence. He was gang stalking through his filthy apartment in Rialto, California, where the fake sun was over me at his apartment, and all of the entity was monitoring while I was inside of his apartment. In the bathroom in his apartment, he was going through my purse, accessing my communication device, and as I come out of the bathroom, where he left his cell phone in the bathroom on purpose to monitor me, and I give him back his cell phone, and I'm looking at him standing over my purse, and he's holding another cell phone, so apparently he had two. but he's standing over my purse in alignment to me, monitoring me inside of his apartment. This is a demon, and he's still engaged in gang stalking, while this demon would like for the narrative to be that he's some government official he's not maintaining any sort of investigation. This is public corruption that I'm exposing. And this gang stalking system includes the federal government. I have documented the federal government gang stalking me under the fake sun in Ontario, California as well. I've documented the entity gang stalking me while I am on what is the grounds of an airport, where the federal government is, and federal law is also implicated with regard to that pattern of conduct. That's not changing. It doesn't change. The entity is engaging in the pattern of conduct and doing so through what is necessarily corrupt bodies of government. And Jason Isaac Fields represents what is a threat, both while he is gang stalking me as a fake friend, also defaming my character, engaging in what is the sick, mentally ill behavior of voyeurism, while I am exposing the pattern of conduct that he is a part of. This is somebody that, again, I stated before, it is not a threat. It is exactly what's going to happen. The federal government, like it has permitted the Ontario Police Department to target and repeatedly kidnap, along with the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, along with the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court, permits a terrorist, a sex offender, a psychopath like Jason Isaac Fields to come into my presence with any sort of information that I have not solicited and that I do not need. This is going to be a federal prosecution that's going to include that liability for that level of an unlawful threat by the federal government. Okay, this is somebody that is representing a threat, and this is somebody that is not welcome, and this is somebody that is engaging in what is an unlawful threat that is under no circumstances anything less than that, while I remain subject to the pattern of conduct which the federal government has not interfered with. While there is no legitimate question, no reasonable question about the level of criminality that I've already exposed and proven, while the demon-possessed are engaged in what is some sort of delusional competition, while the government is permitting this to occur, understand that I'm going to prosecute these demons for domestic terrorism in the United States, and for what is a psychological torture by the government that has no constitutional authority to maintain spiritual warfare, which is, again, prosecuted in the physical as gang stalking. But this is an entity that's engaging in what is gang stalking in the ways in which I'm documenting. The federal government is holding back, permitting it to occur. There is not any legitimate investigation, nor is any psychopath that I've already documented, like Jason Isaac Fields, ever to be in my presence, and it be anything other than a documented federal offense. Jason Isaac Fields has engaged in targeting me with the government, with the people of the state, with his sex partners that includes fake friends of mine, him having sex with people that include TRACEE Banks, that my demon-possessed mother, they're both Jezebel spirits, having sex with my mother, engaging what is conspiring against my life. Defaming my character, conspiring to steal property from me, which is also inspiring your sexual activity with my mother. This is somebody that is also gang stalking and abusing a government position in doing so. If this person who is representing the corrupt government ever comes into my presence, it's an unlawful threat by the government, which I stated before and I'm going to reiterate, is an unlawful threat that I'm going to prosecute for. This is speaking to what is the ability for any American citizen to not only enforce their rights, but protect themselves in the same way that you would analogous to a restraining order. But this is going far beyond a restraining order, because this is the government that's engaging in what is stalking you as opposed to an individual. This is a public entity that's engaged in targeting you in furtherance of murder and kidnapping and defaming you, and is never again in any position to permit any documented terrorist like this corrupt actor, this sex offender, this psychopath, Jason Isaac Fields, who is also a demon-possessed state actor. He's engaged in spiritual war. This is a demon. And on top of that, he's a documented terrorist. And there is no legitimate investigation. And if anybody, like I stated, not only is this not an application to work for the federal government, I will not have anything to do with any federal government that sat back and watched. So you're sitting back and watching now, and the rest of the world is going to watch me deny and decline and also speak the truth about the corruption of the federal government that permitted this conduct to occur while I did the job of what the federal government should have been doing in the first place. In addition to that, Jason Isaac Fields shall be surrounded with federal law, and there will be an arrest. I'm going to enforce my rights.
rights while against a corrupt federal government. And this is speaking to and informing how any American citizen is going to proceed where the government is the criminal, the government is the sex offender, the government is the stalker. You are enforcing your rights against the government that doesn't have any authority to expose you to that unlawful threat, which is exactly what terrorists like TRACEE Banks and her sex partner, her co-conspirator, the facilitator, Jason Isaac Fields, represents. Okay, there is nothing that he has with regard to any information that I'm soliciting or that I need. I've prosecuted this demon at a distance. I've exposed his identity and his demon possession, which people need to know, the public needs to know. He's a threat to children, he's a threat to himself, and he's a threat to the public. Not only because he's a corrupt government actor, this is a psychopath and who is demon possessed, and he is engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. This is not somebody that underwent some sort of mysterious and secret transformation and all of a sudden he's a legitimate investigator. I remain subject to the pattern of conduct that the federal government is facilitating, sitting back and watching it and permitting it. And these are demons that engage in that. I want to make sure that that's abundantly clear. These are demons that are delusional. I'm going to prosecute in the physical, and I'm going to achieve justice, and I will never have anything to do with, and there is no job that I would ever take because I was never applying for any position with the corrupt government that I'm documenting. And any corrupt government that would hire a maniacal psychopath and sex offender that cannot even handle the details of his personal life, such as Jason Isaac Fields. There will be no dealings with that. I will never have anything to do with anybody that would has anything or any business dealings with this thief of intellectual property. This is somebody that's entirely illegitimate, and anybody having anything to do, any business and any entity, any organization, you are already disqualified. Because you share what is a spirit. That's why you've got dealings with Jason Isaac Fields. That's why Jason Isaac Fields has dealings with the demon-possessed, gang stalking me. This is why the entity is engaged in the pattern of conduct. These are a bunch of demons who have already exposed themselves. I'm going to prosecute. I'm going to get justice. And they will be permanently removed and subject to what is a further justice where demons like corrupt actors like Jason Isaac Fields ever come into my presence. So I want to document that's directly relevant to the ongoing sex offense committed by the entity that's gang stalking at Economy N and the entity that is permitting TRACEE Banks, who is engaged in what is targeting as a corrupt actor, and the government is engaged in what is permitting domestic terrorism. They're engaged in terrorism together. It's the same pattern of conduct. The government acting with the people of the state. How is it happening with regard to understanding what are demons? These are the demon-possessed that are targeting American citizens in ways in which they are abusing the positions, abusing the laws and policies in order to accomplish what is murder under many circumstances and what is kidnapping, while the government is filled with a bunch of demons that abuse their positions, lie on the reputations of American citizens, making up information in order to accomplish kidnapping in corrupt facilities like West Valley Detention Center, like Arrowhead Regional Medical Center, where the entity is engaging in the pattern of conduct at that. Okay, I want to make sure that that's abundantly clear. Jason Isaac Fields and everyone affiliated with him, I said it before and I'm going to reiterate that. This is not an application for my having any position with the federal government, which I do not need. I don't need it. And I'm also not interested in it. The demonic spirit that's sitting back watching me subject to this pattern of conduct is the same demonic spirit that's being permanently expelled from my life. And that includes any federal government. There is no position where I am going to be standing next to a bunch of demons that were gang stalking me. You're delusional. There is not going to be any sort of future relationship with a bunch of demons that were sitting around watching me get naked in my apartment home, putting it on the internet, making money, and then claiming that you're transformed and we're going to be friends and there's going to be some professional or personal relationship. You're delusional. Where you were engaged in sexual, oral, vaginal, anal with my mother, you're delusional. And you need help. I'm going to prosecute, and federal law will permanently bar you from ever being in my presence. And if you are in my presence, that's a federal violation where you are still stalking. It is currently 2:18 p.m. The people of the state are gang stalking with the city of Ontario under the fake sun at the moment that I access this podcast, which I will include in the podcast that I will be publishing onto the venue of the internet. And like I stated, the ongoing pattern of conduct is evidence against all those that engaged in criminal defamation where stalkers like Jason Isaac Fields and TRACEE Banks and every other Eric Corey Spencer and everyone else whose name I know that engaged in defaming my character while they were acting in furtherance of gang stalking in order to accomplish what is kidnapping me, in order to steal my property. Because the demon-possessed population surmised that you can gang stalk someone and that would, under the law, equal mental illness because they're targeting you in ways that are unprecedented and typically unproven. Not only have I proven that the government is targeting, the government is targeting through the people of the state, which includes corrupt government actors like Jason Isaac Fields and his sex partner, TRACEE Banks, and every other girl and boy that he's had sex with that I formerly associated with. These demons engage in gay sex. They engage in sexual violence amongst minors. They engage in all manner of sexual perversion. This is a sex cult. This is a witch coven. This is a Jezebel spirit that engaged in targeting me, and I'm exposing it, and I'm also prosecuting it. Okay, and I'm also going to surround it with laws. And sex offenders like Jason Isaac Fields will never be in my presence. There will never be any personal or professional relationship. And the only reason why that demons and psychopaths like Jason Isaac Fields would ever even put that into the universe is because he's a delusional psychopath who is demon possessed. He's mentally ill. Okay, and by the way, his sexual activity with somebody like TRACEE Banks, a pedophile, is evidence of what is wrong with him. Severely long existing emotional dysfunction. To have sex with somebody that's basically your mother. Okay, and this is why he's gang stalking someone like myself. And this is why he is unfit for the government position that he is currently holding. Having any sort of authority or exercising authority or possession over property that belongs to me to date, that's the prosecution of the government. Okay, this is the entity that's engaged in all manner of corruption, and I'm going to prosecute for it. This is the government that's prosecuting by corrupt police department currently exercising authority that they do not actually have when their system of public corruption is exposed. But while they're exercising it now, I'm going to prosecute in the future for it. That's what is represented right now. They're doing it right now, but I'm going to prosecute for it tomorrow. It's currently, again, 2:21 p.m. This is P.O.C. Economy N, 2301 South Euclid Avenue. The city of Ontario is gang stalking with commercial planes under the fake sun 7 hours into the day after the 7:16 a.m. Video captured. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1. Yes, we're at 2:21 p.m. This is the fake sun that's remaining over me at the same venue where you know that it's still present while it's reflecting off of the windows of the same address. This is the entity that's surrounded with this evidence. Okay, the people of the state, gang stalking room number 241. This is the African-American couple operating possession over the third-party license plate that I have been documenting on more than one occasion, multiple days. This is ongoing criminal monitoring with impunity, license 9SBU 962. Gang stalking in the engineer light where I am documenting and capturing screenshots of this African-American couple in custody of a minor child engaging in a sex offense simultaneously, including that child in the sex offense of monitoring in a private space with the government. The entity that's engaging in what is amplifying helicopter activity is attributed to the gang stalking that is already fully established by the Ontario Police Department. The headquarters documented under the fake sun as well at 2500 South Archibald Avenue in Ontario, California, where the entity, that department is also a part of the pattern of conduct, including at the gang stalking police department. The crime scene itself, which is the police station. Gang stalking using helicopter as I'm capturing screenshots. And let me share the specific time stamp while the entity is monitoring. This is exactly what they're doing with commercial planes. As I open up my podcast to begin documenting, the entity is sounding plane activity. Capturing the gang stalking housekeeper that's in relevant position in room 102 underneath my room. The engineer light covers the hotel building. The fake sun is over my head. As I'm capturing this screenshot at 2:28 p.m., the entity sounds helicopter activity. This is this housekeeper, the people of the state, threatening my life and safety. She's a third party, a Latina, non-English speaking Latina, or at least she refrains from speaking English to me while she's monitoring. She's doing so while she's in relevant position at room number 102. Gang stalking immigrants are going to be deported, especially when they're engaging in unlawful threats against American citizens who are documenting them engaging in domestic terrorism in the United States. They are, again, targeting across all racial lines where they are united in Satan gang stalking. The African Americans are gang stalking with this housekeeper, who I'm also capturing in screenshots under the fake sun
license 9 SBU 962, who are accessing room 241, walking in impossible light, and doing so while the entity was amplifying plane activity, which is what I was documenting. The fake sun is over me at 2:04 p.m. where I'm documenting this iteration of the P.O.C. where they're sharing in criminal engagement in what is federal stalking under Title 18. The entity sounding helicopter activity. This is the demon possessed, the special needs that continuously engage in a documented cycle, and their cycle is going to place all of them in what is federal, their appropriate facilities, in other words. This is the criminal system that corrupt government actors like Jason Isaac Fields, who is never permitted to be in my presence. This is a domestic terrorist who is a threat to my life, who has defamed my character in secret court hearings pertaining to property that this psychopath has for years conspired to steal from me with his sex partner TRACEE Banks, who relied on this system where a population is targeting me together in furtherance of murder and kidnapping, and now those demons are providing evidence against each other. Okay, and this is what is significant about the entity sounding helicopter activity. As I am documenting the pattern of conduct, it's 2:34 right now. This is P.O.C. while federal stalking is underway, while the evidence about the stalker is being published on the internet, where the stalker is keeping that evidence under surveillance. And this is the domestic terrorism that the state of California is engaging in the city of Ontario at 2301 South Euclid Avenue. This is P.O.C. All right, license plate 6JZE097, documented gang stalking and kidnapping as an entity at this venue. In 2021, the entity that knows that it's being documented will engage in the pattern of conduct with the same state actors. This demon is stalking in the path by being in relevant position under the enduring fake sun, which is directly above me. At the same time, at 3:16 p.m. I'm standing at the same location at 10 o'clock in the morning. The fake sun is in the same position it is at 10 o'clock in the morning at 9:32 in the morning. That's over me at my hotel room, where this third party that's a documented gang stalker in 2021, this overweight male with the red Ford, gang stalking with economy in, doing so while in possible light activity. You'll see just on the floor under the covered structure where the gang stalking housekeeper, the Latina female, who is targeting me, the amplified sound of what is rumbling, earthquake-like conduct. This is harassment and terrorism, while a demon that's gang stalking by housekeeping in the specific environment under the fake sun. That is, let's count together, 7:16 a.m., 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3:16 p.m. That's 8 hours where the this Latina female, and if this is a gang stalking immigrant, deportation is applicable here with regard to the federal group stalking and monitoring by the entity that is engaging in the P.O.C. in all manner, including by working at the venue under the fake sun. 3:16 p.m. the entity is maintaining this light source in a manner that is directly relevant to what the city of Ontario is doing with commercial plane stalking, what the entity is doing with helicopter stalking, and doing with the people of the state by stalking in the path at the venue, while Impossible Light's just sitting on the floor, and you'll see her engaging in gang stalking while she's handing me a tissue box. She's handing me a tissue box as I document her engaging in that pattern of conduct. What draws my attention is her terrorizing me inside of this apartment, where being outside, walking outside, and rolling her housekeeping cart outside is not going to create a tremendous roaring, rumbling conduct and no vibration. That's called sensational activity under the 8-hour enduring fake sun, which is criminal conduct by the state of California. And this third-party sex offender, license again 6JZE097, is coming back to engage in the pattern of conduct. This is again psychopaths that are engaged in targeting, keeping their back to you, and just look above you. The fake sun is, but that's a demon, that's a psychopath, that's a sex offender that knows about what's going on with your genitalia as well. You're going to prosecute the psychopaths and the sex offenders for what they are, which are domestic terrorists. All right, and this is the unintelligent system that TRACEE Banks and Jason Isaac Fields, the state of California, relied on, and I'm exposing it, prosecuting it, and it's also necessitating the change of the ways that the laws operate in this country. Falsely depicting the character of American citizens, where American citizens are kept under surveillance and targeted by that same government who wants to interfere with your liberty rights concerning your property, your real property, which is not a legitimate interest, especially under circumstances of gang stalking, as the state of California has proven. as the demon-possessed, mentally ill population has proven, okay? It is currently 3:20 p.m. where a population is stalking one woman, that's myself, exhibiting mental illness that is in fact in existence and not in existence by these demons who sit in corrupt courts that are targeting me, trying to steal property from me. So I have documented and exposed their shared mental illness and their criminal conduct of federal group stalking and monitoring. It's currently, again, 3:21 p.m. at Ontario Economy and in Ontario, California at 2301 South Euclid Avenue. This is P.O.C. By the way, you're going to recall the entity that's gang stalking by doing things such as covering up the fake sun, as I documented a couple days ago, and that is evidence of the mental illness and the corruption, and it's also a concession with regard to your monitoring evidence, and clearly there's a fake sun that remains here. That's how I'm able to step outside of the same hotel room at the same property and capture the same environment where the sun is not moving when it is still reflecting off of the windows of the same property at the same address. And at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the entity is engaged in what is covering up the fake sun, which is evidence of criminal surveillance, and it's also evidence of severe mental illness. Delusional and psychopathic stalkers who are engaging in a pattern of conduct that's exposed while their crime scene is exposed, and covering up the fake sun at any time of day is not deviating from what is the inevitable prosecution for the pattern of conduct. The fake sun, remember, is merely an ability to identify what is the ongoing ceaseless criminal system of surveillance, even when the entity subdues the fake sun, which is not the natural environment. The ability to keep a fake sun all day long, in other words, is the ability to subdue that fake sun. And the entity is also engaging in what is gang stalking at nightfall when the fake sun's not in the sky space. The delusional and short-sighted special needs population that's gang stalking and admittedly engaging in state surveillance, having no defense, no intelligent response to engaging in what is an unprecedented sex offense against an American citizen, engages in criminal acts with the intent to obstruct justice, just like I documented covering up the fake sun at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And like I stated, the demons that are very much short-sighted and are only thinking about the right now, and the entities engaging in an ongoing cycle of right now to the next right now to the next right now, and that's how I'm leading. I've already led them into what is an inescapable cage, which is with regard to what is a federal prosecution, okay? Because I am the leader, they're stalking, they're following the leader. The leader has led them into an inevitable demise and public embarrassment, which is relevant to exposure, while the demons do things that are psychopathic also, covering up the fake sun, as psychopathic as keeping a fake sun 8 hours into the day and I'm at the same property. Everybody in that environment is a demon, and they are delusional while they keep their back to you, stalking you. Those are psychopaths. Okay? But don't forget, because you're always mindful of the big picture, and I told you that the demons are short-sighted. And the entity, I've already documented the fake sun during the 3 p.m. hour, and I will document it again. The entity's monitoring, and it's thinking about the right now. And what do you have? Approximately 48 hours later, if that was 2-3 days ago, the fake sun is over me while I'm documenting a bunch of psychopaths of all races banding together. Satan just wants you to be racist. But the demon-possessed, all color lines, all languages, no barriers with regard to gang stalking. The demons who are engaging in what are all colors of the rainbow while they're targeting together, okay? It is currently 3:25 p.m. under the fake sun that was present even when it was subdued. And no evidence of obstruction of justice like that is going to serve to rebut what is the evidence, the insurmountable evidence of a pattern of conduct. Duh. Logic dictates that when you capture something as supernatural as a fake sun sitting over one building for 4 hours or longer, the pattern of conduct of that fake sun or that supernatural occurrence is not then suggesting that that didn't happen the other day. This is the entity that's entirely mentally inept, okay? Again, intellectually inferior, spiritually inferior, obsessed and addicted, while simultaneously providing evidence of stalking in planes and helicopters, like you're forgetting about that aspect of the pattern. This is the entity that is entirely unprepared for exposure and for a comprehensive prosecution, okay? A systematic deconstruction of all the demons that are sitting in position while I'm exposing them department by department, all right? It's currently 3:26 p.m. This is P.O.C.
All right, the entity maintaining the ongoing sound of audible activity while monitoring in the bathroom. This is the sex offender that you saw gang stalking under a fake sun all day long over one building. And this building happens to be the facilitating venue of economy and a documented kidnapper. Okay, this is relevant for what is impunity, relevant for policies such as deportation, relevant for what is federal prison, relevant for what is civil damages. License EE 94299, that's a paper plate. The demon possessed are gang stalking the African American couple, gang stalking in room 241, stalking with amplified audible activity, very demonic. It's domestic terrorism that the entity maintains inside of the room while you're being gang stalked with amplified audible activity and possible light activity. The entity is stalking you with planes and helicopters while a bunch of demons are stalking at a hotel. Okay, and while they're outside at a distance stalking you with the noise of what they're doing at a distance away, those are the demons that are engaged in domestic terrorism. KKB 99, the same third-party license plate, and the employee 9GTD 454, monitoring with the demons who are gang stalking as patrons at the venue and sharing in what is criminal surveillance. And that third party in room 241 is license 9SBU 962, gang stalking while in custody of a minor child. License 3TBG 137, 9DTM 779, 8FLK 961. License 5AMV 692. 5PJE 630 and 5PQL 309 and looks like 33247X2 7BNT 459. And I want you to be clear, while you can hear me walking outside, I'm on the second floor of the hotel. None of this that you hear outside is going to be heard inside of a hotel room. Okay, the entity is amplifying the sound of what is, again, impossible to naturally hear. That's domestic terrorism while you are being targeted, relevant to surveillance in the environment where engineer light surrounds, and psychopaths who are violent sex offenders, keeping the genitalia of that targeted individual also under surveillance. Okay, this is the sex offense committed by an entity that's gang stalking where I'm at, which is a hotel. 6K18018, the people of the state are gang stalking on the roads and the highways, which is the 60 freeway in relevant position. License DZ48B36 paper, GW08HV Texas plate. All right, and the same plate that I documented earlier, 8EDV437. The entity is gang stalking an engineered light that's present at nightfall. The entity, I have two shadows, so shadow that's moving across all the demons, hotel rooms, the third party 229, the third party room 230, the third party room 231, while the entity is amplifying audible activity. And I have multiple shadows, and this is while the business of economy and the establishment itself is going to be prosecuted for the criminal act of domestic terrorism. You're prosecuting the business, and you're also going to prosecute the people of the state that work at the establishment. And this is a documented kidnapper with the same city of Ontario, okay? It is currently 8:16 p.m. The entity has the same impossible light activity that you captured during the day under the fake sun, so I'm going to go ahead and capture that for you, where you can see a demon is stalking in the parking lot. Crossing path, a stalker that's monitoring, and I'm going to show you the light activity of the rail that's appearing on the doors, just like it is during the day, where the fake sun is present, and it's equally impossible light activity. This is the same pattern of conduct. You're understanding the significance of the fake sun documentation is to show you who is targeted, and it's also to show you the environment where criminal surveillance, which is highly malicious, remains underway, and it's also to expose the demon possessed and the pattern of conduct underway by the demon possessed. All right, it is currently 8:16 p.m. This is documentation of ongoing surveillance as I remain subject to it at the facilitating venue of Economy Inn at 2301 South Euclid Avenue. This is a sex offense committed by the public entity and is doing so in reliance on sex offenders who are the people of the state gang stalking cooperatively and with intent and knowledge and an ongoing obsessive addiction to gang stalking as demons who are mentally ill. This is the special needs population fully exposed as stalkers. All right, it's 8:17 p.m. This is P.O.C.